I ran straight one more.
Okay. During work, no, no.
He said the first time. Because these weren't interactive.
Oh,
Right, good evening, everyone. Before we officially get started, just want to remind you all, if you'd like to speak this evening on any agenda item, just please sign up. That will actually be collected right when we finish this evening. So before we officially start, Commissioner Molina is going to lead us in a invocation.
We pray for wisdom, for strength, for courage to do what is right and good for all citizens. May we put aside the interests of others above our own. May we act with love for the common good. May we be good neighbors, recognizing your image in every person here.
An official start at 6 o'clock. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. There are some new faces in the room, so I want to quickly just go over our process a little bit this evening. Tonight, we'll start with calling out the agenda items. The staff then will give us their report, and then the applicant will then give us their presentation at that time. The commission and I will, and at that time, ask any questions of that sort, and then that is when we'll open up public comment. During public comment, you are limited to 3 minutes, and while we wish that we could converse with you, unfortunately we cannot at that time, so we'll just have to say thank you and go on to the next person for public comment. Please know we are listening. And then after that point, we'll have an internal discussion that you will also be able to hear, and we will vote at that time. So for voting, we have, I want to say 3 options. We will vote for a recommendation to City Council approval. We will vote a recommendation to deny, or we can vote for a recommendation to table if we're needing more information at that time. So we'll officially get started. So item 2.1, consider and take action on the election of the Planning and Zoning Commission Chair and Vice Chair. Now there was a question on my terms. It did say the potential 2 years, and I don't remember if I've been on for 2 years already or not. I don't think so, because they have finished at TEDS.
Yeah, I think that applies to full terms.
Okay.
Only. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would like to make a motion that we reappoint or reelect Ashley Cartier to chairman of this committee.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No, I'll just won't be voting on that one. Okay, in the matter of vice chair, I think Brad's doing an amazing job.
Brad's not here,
But he
so
is
I nominate Brad.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So we have a, does it count as a motion in the second?
My motion. Who was that? We reappoint Brad. Did somebody else second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Perfect.
It's easy.
Easy peasy.
He can't argue.
Really? That's what he gets for going to the bathroom. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, 2.2, consider approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes from June 7th, 2026. So they all look good for me except for just one tiny little thing. Was on, did I say the wrong?
No, it says June.
Oh, it is actually for July, that's one thing. And then on the motion for item 2.5, it was saying that with my opposed, just as vice chair. Oh, that's it.
Oh, yeah.
But everything else looked good to me. Good to you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. I'll make a motion that we approve the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes from July 7th, 2026 with the corrections that we stated.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay. 2.3, discussion and possible action to reschedule the October 6th, 2026 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting due to National Night Out.
Do it Thursday. Make it easy.
I didn't know if Sandra was saying something. I think the Thursday works for me. That
Works
was
for me. Same way.
recommended. Okay.
City council still gets everything in time.
Yes.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion that we move the meeting to the Thursday, October 8th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. 2.4, consider request by Mitch Moore on behalf of BCO3 LLC for a variance to section 17.04.003 related to cuts of the City of Bulverde Code of Ordinances on 2.01 acres located at 120 Bulverde Crossing, Bulverde, Texas, 78163.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. This is a request to the cut ordinance. The cut proposed for the development requires a variance to the city's 4-foot limitation. Since the maximum cut amount is approximately 7.037 feet below the natural grade, the variance would approve the additional 3.037 feet of cut located in the red zone shown on the site plan. The applicant is requesting the cut variance to allow for a more level buildable area for this proposed commercial development. Let me know if you have any questions on the staff report, and I believe that the applicant is here if you have any questions on the development.
Any questions for staff?
Thank you. Thank you.
Are you an applicant?
Yes.
Here. Hi, Mitch, could you come up to the dais, please? How are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. Can you explain to us a little bit about the project here and the cut?
2 office buildings will be backed up against the Home Depot parking lot. And the grade just is very high there. We'll put a small retaining wall. It'll be right behind the buildings.
Is there any opportunity of making the building a little bit smaller and kind of shifting the parking up to avoid that area, or is that not possible?
I mean, the site's only, buildable space is only about an acre and a quarter. I'm trying to build 2 buildings with adequate parking. Home Depot won't give an ingress off of their entryway. If they could, it would allow for more opportunities, but they won't work with me at all.
And we found that out before when we tried to do things down there on the where the stoplight or where the corner is where the stop signs are. You can't get anybody on Depot to talk to.
No.
There's trees along there. They're small, but will you be keeping those?
Those trees actually got put right on the property line, so every one of them's going to end up coming out.
Oh,
They were put in the wrong location to begin with.
okay. But you will have landscaping and.
I'll submit a landscaping plan. Yes, most definitely.
Okay.
But that tree line is literally right on.
Do you have any more questions?
No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. And I'll open up public comment at 6:07, but there is no one that is signed up, so we are closing public comment also at 6:07. Commissioners, thoughts on this one?
I don't have a problem with this. This is, he's obviously making the area more valuable. That's property that's going to bring extra money and extra traffic into our area. I mean, and it's a useless piece of corner. If he doesn't use it, it's just going to sit there empty. So I think this is a reasonable request for him.
It's a small area, it's reasonable.
Yeah, I thought the actual cut is not much. He's not even doubling what's allowed, so I was pretty good with it. Any other thoughts? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion of approval to City Council for a request of Mitch Moore on behalf of BCO3 LLC for a variance to section 17.04.003 related to cuts of the City of Bulverde Code of Ordinances on 2.01 acres located at 120 Bulverde Crossing, Bulverde, Texas, 78163.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, 2.5. Hold a public hearing and consider a request by Trimark Developments LP and One Stop Group LP on behalf of Dash Interest LLC and Akbar Ali for the establishment of a planned development district for single-family, multifamily, and commercial uses on approximately 387 acres at 31575 Highway 281 North, Bulverde, Texas 78163.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the commission, this item is a request for the establishment of that PDD Plan Development District with the base zoning of R2 Single Family District, R5 Multi-Family Residential District, and C2 Commercial District on the approximate 387 acres on the McCarty Ranch property along 281. This item was tabled at the July 7th P&Z meeting to address the commissioner's feedback. The applicant has provided an updated submittal. The key changes of the resubmittal are related to expanding the water service options to residential lots, including retail water service and the use of existing wells, in addition to the previously requested or proposed rainwater harvesting. Removing the request related to the altered right-of-way and pavement width requirements and using the city standard width specs for the rural local street type. Removing the request for unlimited disturbances and providing for specific maximum authorizations related to cuts and fills. And finally, the applicant has removed the previously requested alterations within the commercial and multifamily portions of the PDD. In the R2 single-family residential portion of the PDD, the applicant is proposing between 229 and 235 single-family lots. In addition to the base R2 zoning district, the applicant is requesting alterations to the city's code of ordinances as detailed in the staff report. The updated modifications are related to waiving the lot aspect ratio requirement for residential lots, altering the method of calculation of lot frontage for cul-de-sac and pie-shaped lots, altering the street center line alignment minimum requirement, increasing the amount of disturbance allowed within the 20 to 25% slope category, altering requirements to allow for an increase in the maximum allowable cut and fill for the area surrounding the building footprint and for residential driveways, reducing the area of the tree survey, waiving tree mitigation requirements within the grading area, and allowing for 11 encroachments of residential lots within riparian buffers. In the R5 multifamily residential and C2 commercial portion of the PDD, as previously stated, the applicant has removed their proposed alterations to the code of ordinances. The applicant is proposing water and wastewater service to be provided by a TCEQ permitted entity, which may include a private utility provider holding a CCN, a municipal utility district or other similar district, or a qualified third-party contractor operator. The applicant is requesting approval of a water storage facility and a water booster station to be owned and maintained by the public water system. This water storage facility and booster station will offer service to residential and commercial lots within the PDD. At the time this staff report was posted, staff had not received any written notices of support or opposition. As of today, we received 4 written notices, which have been printed out and provided to all of the commissioners today. The applicant does have a presentation and exhibits they would like to present to the commission, if y'all don't have any questions for me.
Any questions for staff?
Good evening. My name is Ken Brown. Good to see you again. Mike's not here, so when he gets here, tell him I made a great presentation. He will be here. I do want to start with sort of a bigger picture, and that is that I don't think any project in the city of Bulverde has had as many public hearings, meetings with staff, with council members, with P&Z. We had a town hall meeting during this entire process, and in every meeting, good ideas were brought up, and I truly believe that my client has tried to address every one of the concerns and ideas or or just trying to make the project better. And so, I'll go over my shoulder every time the door happens. So I will say the reason why we chose the PDD, which remember is a planned development district, because there were concerns as to why are you doing it at this stage. And the reason why we need to do it at this stage is for certainty on our side, certainty for the builder, ultimate builder, certainty for our lender. We need that kind of certainty. And that's what the PDD was designed for. And we have done the planning, and I mean engineering, tree surveys, all that sort of stuff. We've done the work where I admit the last time we were here, we were asking for very broad strokes of modifications or variance. We went back with our engineer, Peg Dawson, with the input of some potential builders, and I think we've come back with a very surgical request. Every modification, and I'll get into it, this won't work for me. It never does. Oh, fine. So I'll go through our proposal. Staff did a good job. But we originally had 29 modification code requests. We now have 9. 20 of them have been withdrawn. We also, the last time we were here, we had 234 lots. We are now proposing 229. That's 5 less. And that may not seem like a lot, but we started with a lot more, and even 5 less is $5 million. Every modification that we took out and now complying with the code, every one of those things costs us money, and we understand it costs money to develop. And so we heard you, and so we made these modifications. I think the big ones were referenced, but every one of our modifications it is not a blanket request now. It is for particular lots, and they're identified in our proposal. The lot frontage ratio and the lot frontage are limited. The ratio is limited to 22 cul-de-sac lots. The frontage width is limited to 14 pie-shaped lots. I mean, those are variances that, you're right, would come at the planning stage. But we have 5 phases that could take, I don't know how long, depending upon the market. That's why we need the certainty today. But we've identified where we need those variances. The right-of-way variance that we asked and seemed to be a very big concern, we've withdrawn. The cut variance that we asked for is limited to 6 lots. These are all identified on the exhibit. The fill is limited to 9 lots. They're all identified. So we get back to the lots touching the riparian buffer was 55, now it's 11. 84% of the trees and habitat are preserved, and we're at 14% impervious cover. We still think, we thought it was a great project when we were here last time, but we understood your concerns that you didn't want to hand out blanket variances for the entire property. Remember, the planned part of it is for the single family part. The planning hasn't been done for the multifamily and the commercial, and so we've eliminated all modifications for those 2 pieces of property. They can come back, the owners of those properties can come back here under the PDD, or they can go through the planning process, and if they need variances, they can go through that process. As I said, we need to know up front if we're going to have those variances. Like I said, there's 5 phases. I don't know how long you're going to be here. I don't find you to be particularly unreasonable, but you may not be here. And if we get a variance for the first phase and not the second or third, we're going to have big problems. Once again, I think that's what the planned development district was designed for. And you're right, most people don't do all the engineering that we've done. Most people just if they've got a flat piece of property at the corner of Main and Main, they don't need to do all that. But we do. We have a very unique piece of property, and we want it to be the best development that Bulverde has ever seen. I'm going to keep going. So as I said, there's 3 scopes. we're on the R2, the scope for the C2 and the R5. We're not asking for any modifications. Remember, we're essentially downsizing from R3 to R2 because during all those public hearings, we heard people wanted 1 acre lots. And so that's what we're proposing. So we are, as I said, we are asking for 9 narrowly drawn code modifications. And the principles behind the modifications are really based upon your comments. We narrowed them, we put them in specific areas, we've made them enforceable, and we've tried to keep the code as intact as you want it to be. Once again, these modifications were based upon going back with the engineer, and if you have questions about each particular variance, I'm going to bring up the engineer at this point. Yeah, I'm going to let her discuss that. So we are not overriding the steep slope article. I will go back to that last one. We have defined the envelope, and you can ask questions. I mean, the developable envelope is limited to particular tracts of what we're asking for. The trees and the riparian buffer, I think those are straightforward from the staff's recommendations to what we're asking. The riparian buffer is kept in place. Last time, I think there were 55 lots that were touching it. Now there are 11. And I don't know, we were caught off guard this last time. We really thought everybody would, want to eat granola and stuff, but we didn't. And so we are going to provide an option, but a traditional water source that's regulated through the TCEQ and electricity. They will still have the option to do a hybrid or do one or the other. But I think that eliminates fire concerns that you may have had, concerns, and with the batteries, probably the same thing. So I think we've eliminated those. It's still what we consider to be a conservation-oriented community. There are 50 acres of green space, 40 of them are conservation. 7 acres of dedicated park, dark sky ordinance. So these are the 9 modifications. And as I said earlier, you can ask your particular questions about them, but once again, they are limited in scope, each one of them, to particular places, and you have the maps. Did you hand them out? I have to ask you if we can hand you some maps showing the lots for cut and fills, the lots that are pie shaped.
Is it different from what we already have? No, it's just okay, so it's just easier to see. Yes.
Yeah. If it helps, that's.
As long as you promise it's the same. It's in the application part. Thank you.
But I've gone over these generally about the lot aspect ratio, the cul-de-sac frontage, the reverse frontage, steep slope, cuts, the fill, tree removal, tree survey, and riparian equipment. As I said, we have our engineer here from Pecos and can answer any of the questions about these particular modifications. But as I said, we came in with a very broad brush last time. I think through the engineer, through talking with potential builders, I think we have something that we can market and that we can develop, and I think it's something that I think we'll really can be proud of. So the owner is here. The engineer is here to answer your questions. If you have any, please don't hesitate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Do you guys just want to get straight into it? Do you guys have any questions for staff at this point that we want to address first? We can. If you want to ask questions first.
I think I'd rather hear the public speakers than that's all.
At the same time? Perfect, let's do it. Okay, so we'll go ahead and open up public comment at 6:24. We'll start with Mr. Lyndon Sisk.
Good evening, Commissioners. The staff analysis related to water for this project says the PWS may be operated by a CCN holding retail public utility, by a municipal utility district or similar special district, or by another qualified entity authorized to provide retail water service. I note that this property lies within the geographic boundaries of the certificate of convenience and necessity that is owned by the Texas Water Company. In May of last year, the Texas Water Company placed a hold on water that they had agreed to provide to 9 separate subdivisions. I had a conversation last night with one of the county commissioners, and I said, when can we expect to find or to receive the water availability report from the Texas Water Company? And his comment was, not anytime soon. So given that a CCN grants to a specific entity the exclusive right to provide retail water in their geographical area, I just have a question, and it may be one that our city planner has to answer or can. And that question is, when in the process of dealing with this particular project, does the applicant have to provide proof of water availability?
At the plating stage.
I'm sorry,
At the plating stage.
At the planning stage.
when?
Plating stage, plating.
Okay, so that's what we're dealing with right now. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next, David Ronquillo.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is David Ronapolo, and I want to address the Planned Development District concept. A planned development district should only be approved when the flexibility requested by the developer results in a clear and meaningful public benefit that outweighs the departure from established zoning standards. In this case, the developer is seeking relief from requirements that apply to other property owners, yet it is unclear what corresponding benefit the community receives in return. The city zoning ordinances was carefully developed to balance private development interests with the public's interest in protecting neighborhood character, environmental resources, infrastructure, and the overall quality of life. Deviating from those standards without a compelling public purpose risks undermining the intent of the ordinance itself. Approving a PDD that primarily serves to reduce constraints can create an uneven playing field and set a precedent for future requests for similar exceptions. If developers can avoid established standards through a negotiated zoning district without providing significant community benefits, the consistency and predictability of zoning processes are weakened. A PDD should not function as a means to circumvent regulations that were adopted for the benefit of the broader community. Rather, any departure from the underlying zoning requirements should be justified by substantial public advantages that are clearly demonstrated and enforceable. If the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval of this PDD to the City Council, it should clearly articulate the specific public benefit that justify the requested departures from the city's established development standards. A planned development district is intended to provide flexibility only when that flexibility results in a demonstrable benefit to the community. Without a clear statement of those benefits, the request may be perceived as granting special exceptions to a single development rather than advancing a broader public purpose. Accordingly, any recommendation for approval should identify the tangible advantages to the city and its residents will receive in exchange for the requested deviations from the underlying zoning regulations. This explanation is essential to demonstrate that the PDC serves the public interest and not merely the convenience or economic interests of the developer. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan Tucker?
Well, good evening, Ryan Tucker, 2936 Spartan Hill Drive. I'm asking you to deny the PDD. The developer wants credit for withdrawing 20 of these asks. Now, they made the comment about, I can't believe it's taken this long, but we've gone through multiple hearings. Well, I don't think that's really much of a surprise. Withdrawing 20 doesn't deserve applause. It just means the prior application has been a farce. That this entire situation has been an exercise in overreach. The developer came in here, asked for everything just to see a response, to see how far they could get. That's not in good faith. So the question tonight is, what about the remaining 9? And whether those modifications, those vague, open-ended language words in this plan deserve approval. They simply do not. The city adopted its ordinance for a reason. They should be enforced as written. The plan before you, the actual document that you'll be voting on, not the slide. The slides themselves leaves critical terms undefined. And so let me just highlight one of those. I live on Barton Hill, so my backyard looks out towards it. The PDD talks about a water storage facility. Well, that's not defined. The plan authorizes a water storage facility on the hilltop. The phrase has no tank type restriction, no height limit, no screening requirement, no lighting standard, no view protection. An oral promise at a hearing doesn't mean anything. If the applicant will not commit to a below-grade storage in the binding document, an oral promise, again, means nothing. So we're going to be looking at another water tower sitting on 281 as the gateway to the hill country here. The same vagueness runs throughout the document itself. Look at the booster pump station. Location to be determined at plating, the water system operator, the CCN utility, MUD, or a quote-unquote another qualified entity. Per phase lot counts may be adjusted at plating. The concept plan may be altered upon plating. A PD that leaves these terms undefined is a blank check. Of course, you guys may remember the developer literally asked for a blank check. Those are his words. There's still no traffic impact analysis, no drainage study, no biological assessment, as the Save Our Springs Alliance has warned about in Austin. There's been no discussion of that, and that greatly concerns me. Your code authorizes you to require all of these. The developer has chosen not to produce them. That's not an oversight. It is a strategy. I ask you to deny this application, hold true to your ordinances. And just one last word, Mr. Brown, very astute lawyer, asked that they get certainty. I think the citizens of Bulverde, and certainly the city itself, need certainty, and that doesn't exist at this current moment. Thank you.
Mike Romans?
Hello, Commissioners. Mike Romans, I live at 31438 Bulverde Hills Drive. I believe I own the largest adjoining set of lots to this project, and I'm a former chair of this body. And in 2017, we approved an MVP for this property that I thought was a very good plan. This one's better than that one. This has less density. The things that I like about it, the 100-foot buffer along the back of our lots. I would like to see some better clarification as to what that entails. They show it as a landscape easement, but that doesn't really work. I think it's been mentioned as a conservation easement as well. That protects the owners. the property along there. They're not extending those stub streets that are there. There are 2 stub streets that the MDP eliminated, but then that lapsed. So those streets could be pushed through. They're not going to push those through. Nobody in the neighborhood wants that. I circulated a petition a while back. Got a lot of signatures. Nobody wants those streets pushed through, so they're not being pushed through. They're now going to the 60-foot right-of-way as opposed to the 40, which had me bothered. They're going to do underground electric, as I've been told by Samir Jahadi. I think the positives of this plan outweigh the negatives, and to have the developer do all of those studies at this point and put out all that extra money, I mean, they'll have to be done before platting. And that's really, I've been in this business on a land surveyor. They're just timing. No developer is going to lay out the money to do all these studies up front. You have to know that their general concept is going to work. So, Samir has been very straightforward with me. We've spoken on the phone several times. I trust him. I don't think we should have a knee-jerk reaction with all developers. There's some bad ones, there's some good ones. So, anyway, that's the points I wanted to make. Thank you very much.
That ends public comment at 6:35. I do have a couple of questions. The first one is actually for staff. So they're changing now to the rural local roads, what they're adopting. But then when I was digging into it, I didn't understand the previous applications, what they were diverting from, because I think with their density, wouldn't they need to be urban local roads? But even what we had before wasn't urban local.
So the city's got 2 different standards for road sizes, one that applies in the ETJ and one that applies in the city limits. If you look at the ETJ standards, it would have pushed into urban, but in the city limits, 1 acre lots are eligible for rural local.
No matter the density?
Well, 1 acre is the density. So as long as it's every lot in there is 1 acre, it qualifies under the in-city restrictions for rural local.
Got it. Okay. So I thought the calculation was the number of lots to the overall acreage, and then that creates a percentage technically, and that will then determine the density.
No, the density is determined in 1 of 2 ways. For the ETJ portion, it's EDUs per acre. And I believe the cutoff under that calculation is 2 acre lots to get rural local. And then in the in-city portion, it says 1 acre lots. It references the lot size specifically, not the lots divided by the, land calculation.
Mr. Batts, do we currently have any muds in the city of Fulton?
There is some very small overlap with Water Control and Improvement District number 6 in Singing Hills, the commercial portion of Singing Hills. Besides that, there is no overlap with any mud or mud type district in the city.
Another question would you mind if I address that question? I'm Brooke Lindholm, I'm with Cape Dawson. I did want to provide some clarity on the water situation where things are standing right now. So we have a term sheet from a wholesale water provider to get water to the site. So what we're currently working with Texas Water Company, this would be the hope if they'll accept it, is for them to accept the water to service the property from this wholesale water provider. So we've identified a source, we have a term sheet to get water to the site, and now we're just trying to find a retail provider. And I think it was correctly pointed out that Texas Water Company is the CCN holder for this property. So ideally, that would be who accepts it. If they're not willing to, then we'll look at other options, and that's where potentially a mud would come into play or some other mechanism. But we do have a path forward for water today.
And who is the wholesaler?
It's Texas Water Supply.
Texas Water Supply.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more what that means exactly? So are they bringing in truckloads of water or?
No, they have wells in this area that they permitted through Edwards Aquifer. And so they sell water to retail providers like a Texas Water Company if they would accept it.
And how does it get to your site though?
They would bring the water to the site. They have pipes. It would just be underground pipes.
Okay. So these are the 17 brown wells that are on the northern end of Bear County in the Trinity Hall. Right.
I don't know where all of their wells are, but yes, they do have some on the north end of Bear County. Correct.
I think they have 30 total.
They have several. They're on a few of our projects, residential projects.
I have one quick question. This might be a staff question for, there might be a question for you as well. So if we took away a lot of the acts on the multifamily and the commercial, why is it a part of this PDD? Why isn't it separate like the previous one was?
Good evening, commissioners. So it has to do with the current ownership and their anxiety about the current zoning being protected. And they believe that one of the mechanisms that's included in the PDD to kind of grandfather the current zoning and the current code. And honestly, that's what it is. Initially, they wanted us to do more. They wanted us to get similar variances to the commercial side as well as multifamily. And it took a lot of conversations, convincing that maybe this is not the right time to do this. And the reasonable people, they decided that's good, focus on the single family. But they still would like to make sure that at least all they want is to protect those. That's all. I think they had some anxiety. One of the council people was talking about potentially converting whole property to 5-acre lots in one of the meetings, and they were listening and said, yeah, maybe we should just, that's what's driving behavior. If they answer your question.
Thank you. Of course. And one part of the grandfathering language that I was seeing in your application was you want to be grandfathered to the code when you put the application back in April, but if it tightened later on, you wouldn't have to abide to the tightening. But if it loosened, you had the choice to go with the loosening of the code, is what's written in the application. So would you be okay if we say you can be grandfathered, but it's loosened, you can't be loosened, or if it?
Yeah, let's stay within the limits that we've already set.
Yeah, I believe they would be okay with that. I'm pretty sure. I mean, they're
So
happy with
I'm going to step in and tell you that's not possible. State law gives them the right to use looser standards later.
Okay.
So that's already in the law. Our attorneys have not reviewed that request. I'm not sure how they're going to react to that. They won't do that until council indicates an intention to move forward. So whether that grandfathering request is even appropriate to be in a PDD, I can't give you an assurance at this point.
Okay.
But vested rights are typically accrued by the filing of a permit under a zoning ordinance. So if a plat was filed or something like that, vested rights would be accrued anyway. So anyway, our attorneys haven't reviewed that.
Okay.
And I don't want to give any assurances that they will recommend that being included in the final.
Okay, so that potentially could be taken out.
Potentially,
Council
it'll
of
be whatever our attorneys advise you.
Okay, perfect. And then kind of another question, this might be a staff or for you. Could you remind us also the questions of why PDD, why this isn't it's a zoning change? I understand that's why it's PDD, but you guys could have gone forward with an MDP, right?
Well, an MDP has to conform with all of the current regulations.
Unless the variance request.
And they have to, I mean, it's the landowner's choice of what they want to apply for. We can't tell them you should do it this way and not this way. Theoretically, they could have come in the planning phase and tried to get, not all of these requests for alterations would be subdivision ordinance variances though. Some of them are variations from the zoning ordinance, so wouldn't really get them. This is the only instrument, I believe, that allows them to bundle all of their requests in one action.
That's a good question.
Do you wanna, I have some other questions, but if you guys wanna.
No, go ahead, Nick. You're on point.
May I just add something to Mr. Brad's comments?
Can you back up a little bit? I think I'm having a hard time hearing you up here.
Is
So
this better now? I'm not sure if this is on.
I
Is
just
it on?
talk real like, yeah.
Is it on?
Oh,
Is this
oh,
better?
okay, it's working. Okay, yeah. You're just a light talker. Okay, go
I
ahead.
can, yeah, I am. So there was a comment, which is a very legitimate comment earlier, about the use of the PD as an instrument to be able to tighten up a project like this size. And it is a very difficult way to do something like this. It guarantees many things to everybody. It guarantees what the plan is going to look like. It guarantees the city knows exactly what they're stepping into. The neighbors know what the community is going to look like. But also, in terms of improvements, we are downgrading our zoning, right? We're going from R3, which is half-acre lots, to R2, which is 1 acre lots across the whole property. And if this is not an upgrade and improvement for the community that will allow us to use the PDD to provide that level of certainty that Mr. Brown was talking about, and certainty is needed. I see from a development perspective, you'll see most developers wanting that ideally actually upfront for financing reasons, because the banks see any kind of uncertainty. Are you going to be able to get this variance? Again, they see that as risk, right? So for most developments, that's the reason why we're asking for the variances upfront, and we're going through all this effort and investing so much money in engineering and meeting substantially higher standards than typical zoning process, because we want for all of us to get the level of certainty as to exactly what is going on that property. It's not always the case when it comes to general zoning. So I just wanted to shed some light on the comment on the PT. I thought it's only fair to ask. Thank you.
Okay, so you define, so in the slideshow and also in the application, you define the exempt lots. So there's 11 lots that are in the riparian buffer. You're saying they're exempt from the riparian buffer encroachment and disturbance regulations. However, then on in your application on the bottom of page 8, you say that no protected specimen or majestic tree may be removed in the buffer except for the exempt lots. So on those 11 lots, are you asking to remove protected trees inside the riparian buffer?
We're talking about heritage trees, or like, we call them heritage. What do we call them?
Protected specimen,
Yeah,
majestic.
protected. Yes. So, so we have we actually modified the plan quite a bit, even though it doesn't look like we have. But when we widened the ROW, whole cascading, everything, it's like domino effect. Everything had to be moved around. And that's when we took 55 lots and turned them into 11 lots, right? So we adjusted everything to be able to extract a lot of these lots out of the riparian buffer. Most of them were only touching anyways, but we just wanted to remove that because it was a heavy ask. Yeah, we recognize that. So we have only a few lots that are problematic. We already went down by 5 lots, and I know it doesn't sound like a lot. 5 lots is a lot for us because you only make your money as a developer on the last few lots, right? All your cost is upfront, and you get to a point where you have your break even. So it's not proportional. We may make our money on the last, 10% of our lots, right? So the last 10% in this case is like 29 lots. You take 5 out of those, that's substantial downgrade on our margins. I'm sorry if I'm going, I just want you to know that the behavior as to why we would be asking for some of these variances.
Well, the question was if you're removing those trees from these lots.
We would have to remove the trees only where we're remediating, right?
I believe that there may be it may not be stated clearly in the application. It's my understanding that they intend to contain the riparian buffer in an easement on the 9, I forgot the exact number of riparian buffer lots, and they don't intend to do any disturbance within the riparian buffer.
Then there's a statement at the end of our application saying that they can remove our protected trees from those 11 lots.
I mean, can we add some clarification to that? I think really what the intent of that would be for there's some lots that are in the plan northwest where you would have to have a culvert crossing within that riparian buffer to get access to the lot. So it would be the drive itself would be crossing it. So you would put like a culvert structure underneath below to continue to convey the water through there. So
We see on the mappers.
yeah, is there a map of that, Samir? Where do I point this? Right.
I'll let you control it because you know which.
Oh, sorry.
Would be exhibit R2C2.
Yeah, that's the exhibit. R2C.
Oh, wait, I went too far. Oh, I didn't go far enough. I'm sorry. Okay, so if you see like those lots, I don't want to point around y'all, but it's those lots kind of in that northwest corner right there. You see the yellow hatch. That's the riparian buffer where the lots are would have to be set back behind them, so we would need a driveway culvert to cross that road to get access to the lot. So, maybe we could add some clarity to that language that says that a drainage easement would be established on the lots with the exception of, driveway access to the house pads. Yes, the trees will buffer. I think we could add some additional definition there if that's what y'all would like to see.
I think they should make those 3 lots.
That's a very small area.
And we don't have a tree survey on everything, so I mean, it might not be that we would even need to remove.
Yeah, there may be no heritage trees there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I would rather not have that part of the application at this time.
Okay, I think that's fine.
And then later, if there's a heritage tree in your way, then you have to go
Ask for a specific variance on that. Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair.
So kind of the same situation. I think it might be in R2.C. So you're saying that basically disturbance on slopes greater than 25% remains prohibited within the grading area.
Yeah.
But then you ask for a modification to disturb such a slope that's within a driveway. It looks like there's a few places here where it is going to be over 25% slope and a driveway. Those two statements are kind of contradicting each other again.
Where are you seeing it for the driveway?
So, like in here, you would have to, all this red is all.
Well, I think
this lot.
Oh yeah, so the thought would be that we would be able to kind of curve around. I mean, this is like a broad stroke cut or a slope analysis on the project. So largely there were large pockets where it was over, but I think we were able to identify areas in those lots where there was some green where we could just I think on the lower bounds we did ask to increase the allowable disturbance area from make sure I get this right. We asked to go up like 5 percentage points from what's allowable in the code. 15 to 20, 30 to 25%. Correct. Just so that we could get those driveways in there.
Okay.
But we felt like we didn't need to ask for variance on the steep slopes, and we would just, if we needed to, I mean, that's kind of another piece of, if we needed to kind of tweak a lot line so that we could
get that driveway in there, that's what kind of flexibility that we're asking for with the PE to plating stage is, massaging lot lines here or there. Are you okay if we take that section then out as well, where it's basically saying that you can go over 25% slope on the driveway? For driveways, yeah, that's
May I add something? So there was a little bit of a boo-boo, as they say, on our end, and then we corrected it. But as we were looking at the agenda packet, didn't make it in the agenda packet. It was kind of a correction, I believe. It didn't make the cutoff. But it is in the agenda. It is in the application already. So there's nothing new. This is part of the handout. If you look at the second page in the handout, so you see this one and then the second page. You'll see there's an exhibit that we have included that shows yeah, just on the back of the first page. It's like double printed. Yeah. So it is basically our 2.c number 2, page 2 of the exhibit. That's what was missing from the agenda. So this is very relevant exhibit. This is the exhibit that shows you the 6 lots that are subject to the cut variance that we're asking for, and the 9 lots in blue that are subject to the fill variance. So we actually spend a lot of effort in making sure that we're going down to the lot level on every single one of the variances that we're asking for. So we went down to lot level on the riparian buffer, on even you'll see on the cul-de-sacs, on those pie-shaped lots, so that ratio, the lot ratio, we basically highlighted each one of those lots on the plan that are subject to that variance. We did the same for cut and fill. We're very proud in the fact that this gives you definition. Where before, honestly, we did a good job at being so broad, and you brought up all of these, and there's no definition, all these variances, and you're right to hold us accountable. So even though we may not have necessarily thought about that initially, pushing us in that direction was a good thing. We're down to the point where we have exactly what you need for every variance. Every variance comes with its own page. So I'm sorry this didn't make it into the package, but it is in the application. 67.
Also, too, on the driveways, I have a question here. Can you explain to me how a 20-foot cut for a driveway is going to look on those 6 lots? Sure. I mean, you can see on this exhibit right here the dark gray fold lines. We've actually done preliminary street planning profiles for all the streets, and where you're seeing those slopes encroaching into the lot, that's as a result of meeting the street ordinance for the city of Woolverde. So there's maximum slopes that you can have on a street to meet fire code, and because there's maximum slopes that you can have, and then there's also, you can't just go from a really steep slope up to a really steep slope down. You have to massage that so that people aren't experiencing the bottoming out effects with their cars. It propagates onto the lots, and so the requests that we're asking for in relationship to the driveways, I think we've mentioned that in previous presentations. You'll have allowances for the streets, you have allowances for the house, but you don't have allowances for the driveways itself. And so because we're trying to limit the amount of disturbance, what tends to happen in a lot of higher end communities is that we'll just cut like a slightly larger driveway, and I don't have plans for it yet, so I'm just speaking typically what happens. And if it's in a cut situation, you would have exposed rock on either side, and because this is over the recharge zone.
So you're looking for I think I'm getting it, but I'm not certain. You're looking at a switchback or a canyon type system with a switchback to get up to the lot.
Correct.
Okay. So you would drive up something that had sides, 8, 10 feet of rock on each side, and you come up and make a switchback. And hopefully you would have enough room at the top of the switchback at the curb to make a fire truck or ambulance and police car be able to get through.
Yeah, I mean, there's code regulations for all of that we would have to follow, and so we would adhere to all those regulations. I will say that if you look at, and I'm not as familiar with Port Verde area, but if you go up I-10 and you look at a lot of the higher end communities that are up the I-10 corridor, this is not an uncommon situation. Actually, there's a project that's off of Fordfeld that we designed that's a higher end community that has this similar situation on select lots, and you get a geotech to go out, evaluate the integrity of the wall to make sure it's not gonna degrade over time. And as long as you're meeting those regulations, it's very they provide the recommendations, the builders follow those regulations, and it's it's designed to code. It's as safe as any engineered facility could be. Next one, I'm going to switch a little bit around this about the trees again. So it says that you commit to keeping 84% of the existing trees. So your buildable area you're saying is 11.1 of the site, and then adding that part of you get to about 16%. So you have 84% of like your property left over. So my question is the 84% tree number based off the actual count of trees, or is it just inferred from area? I would think so.
They haven't done tree survey.
We have a bigger concentration of trees inside the riparian buffer, as you can imagine. We have, did you hear me now? Sorry. All right. So we have a substantially higher density of trees inside the riparian buffer, which is generally the case. We have had, not sure if you remember, we did a tree inventory, not a tree survey, but we were able to determine a lot of approximate location for the bigger trees. And when we designed this, we actually designed it in such a way that we avoid almost, I believe we had only one tree that was subject to potentially questionable if we need to take it out, 1 or 2 trees out of all the like the bigger trees.
Right. So is the count based on that was it LiDAR or something you guys did, or some sort of?
Yeah, no, actually we were on the ground. We did on the ground inventory because I wanted to see because LiDAR doesn't give you trunk, and we wanted to be more specific because we knew it was going to come down to this kind of conversation. So we thought we would invest money up front and go through this so that when we're designing, we have intelligence around, how can we minimize any tree cuts. So you see some stuff there that actually is designed for it.
So obviously you want more than 100 trees on the lot. So let's just say hypothetically 100 trees, you're saving 84 of them, or if they're just, you know what I'm saying, right? Because you're not classifying, you're saying we're protecting 84%, whether it's based off count or based off you're just not touching 84% of the land.
Correct. It's the latter.
So the trees that happen to be in 84% of the land that you're not touching is
correct. Yes. And please know, 85% of those trees on that property are basically non-protected trees in your code. Just wanted to highlight that.
Does that mean you're taking them out?
No, we're not taking. No, we're not. Actually, it's funny because the McCarty family, over this process, I got to know them well. And actually, they have another McCarty ranch south, which is much bigger than this McCarty ranch. And we were just having dinner with them a few weeks ago, and he was saying that when they bought the property, the state paid for the removal of all the cedar trees. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, that's actually what happened because they believe cedar trees are sucking a lot of water from the tables underneath, and they're choking the good trees, like the oaks So that's why the state had a program where they actually paid for the removal. And I'm like, interesting. Yeah.
Okay, so the new defined term of buildable area is 1.6 acres, it's about 7,000 square feet. It has to hold the house, driveway, the usable outdoor area, and possibly the 25,000 underground cistern. My question is, where does the septic go?
Well, obviously it goes, I'm gonna just, there are rules and regulations by CQ as to where you can put septic in relation to water, potable water. So obviously we have to comply. We're not asking for any variances on any of that. We have to comply. It's going to depend on the topo of every single lot, right? And every single lot is going to have a different formula. Now, honestly, by making public water available, it's going to be substantially easier for us to work on certain lots than others where, honestly, we were concerned that we wanted to do off-grid so bad because we thought it was a super cool concept, right? But it had its issues, even for us, and the cost that comes with it. So like, we're very happy to go with the hybrid model when people want it. And then if people want it on those tough lots, we can steer them to other lots easier to put rainwater harvesting. So OSSF first in terms of design, wherever it makes sense, and where we can with cisterns, we will. And the cistern thing, I believe Brad had a question on that in terms of sizing. We did put some sizing. If it is the primary source, rainwater harvesting, we're going with 25,000 gallons as a minimum. And we're doing redundancies, so we will have 2 cisterns to ensure that there's a backup in case one has an issue, contamination. So we have a plan for that. We did all the studying around rainwater harvesting. We have Dr. Sun, who is involved in helping us with other projects. He actually even volunteered to sit on the Conservancy committee that we have launched as of 2 weeks ago. So we have a whole bunch of bodies. Like, I believe I mentioned it last time, but I mean, we just had our meeting, and everybody's excited about helping with, encouraging rainwater harvesting, encouraging off-grid communities, specifically for the Hill Country, because if we can start raising standards for other developers and show them that 1 acre lot, rainwater harvesting, off-grid is possible, it's feasible financially, and this could potentially set a standard that maybe will be the standard, the minimum standard in the Hill Country. So the Hill Country Alliance is very interested in what we're doing. They're on board. They're actually joined this advisory group, and we have Edwards Aquifer Authority, we have the Senator Aquifer Authority, we have the Great Springs projects, we have even actually a commissioner office from Bexar County, Commissioner Moody. He sent representation from his office. So ultimately, I think we're gathering enough momentum to be able. The biggest problem we have right now is regulations, where rainwater harvesting is being treated a lot like well. And I believe the gentleman, Mr. Perry, there, he was talking about his constraints and the fact that he has a well on site, and then he wanted to do rainwater harvesting. The county held him to a substantially higher standard, saying 5 acre lots is your minimum, which is the minimum for a well and OSSF in Comal County. We have the same issue with a project in Bexar County, where Bexar County is 1.5. Bexar County, 10 acres, 10 acres. So that's obviously not feasible. And the Hill Country Alliance and some other organizations are helping potentially educate and work on syncing up the regulations of the counties with state. There's one county that is our hero, it's Hays County. They've been doing this since 2011. So basically, just just so you understand it, about what we've been doing in that space. We would have loved to build this all 100% before.
With the septic, is there no plans at this time to have additional disturbance for septic?
Well, I think your code allows for disturbance within, I think it's like 4 feet without any variances. And so we're just not asking for any variances related to the septic system. Okay. So if something were to come up site specific, we would just come back and ask for it at that time.
I think the question is, do you intend to also have the septic inside that 0.16 acre pocket of development or is it outside that? Area?
It would, I don't want to say, it would probably be outside of it. Yeah, but it's not anything that is outside of what your code allows. And would you be doing that at the time the house is being built? That's when it's going to be evaluated. Right. If something you guys are creatively doing no, without having a plan. Correct. And that's, I'm not a septic engineer, so I can't speak to it. But also it's very dependent upon where the house is set on the lot, which we don't know yet. It depends on the tree surveys, making sure that we're minimizing cut fill. All those variables are just unknown at this time, so we're just not asking for any variances related to it. Okay, this is probably a good question for staff more. So in section 2.6 of your application, you're saying that no impervious cover figure is committed for the commercial and multifamily scopes. However, that is a number that is required in the PPD application. So when using staff's estimates from their report, the whole site number is 24%, not 14%. Can we get that number committed? Because we need that for the application.
Well, it's not a commitment. The application requires a number to be listed. It's not something that's binding unless you write it into the ordinance, but it just requires an estimate to be listed. And the original application had a whole site estimate, 24%.
So are you moving forward with that 24%?
It doesn't, it's not binding. It's an evaluation point for the council and the commission to have, but it's not something we would enforce. We don't generally enforce impervious cover restrictions. Instead, we make you mitigate for all of your impervious cover, except for certain zones over the recharge zone. It's the only place we have impervious cover direct limitations.
So I understand it's not committed, but that number is part of the new application. Right now, it's saying it's not.
And we consider it to carry it over from the original. Yeah. Okay, so in your fire suppression part of the application, you say fire suppression is one reserve for 16 homes fed by harvested rainwater and using the existing wells as backup. Has emergency services reviewed that plan or reviewed those wells?
I think that's a carryover from the old application. That's not the case anymore since we're going to have just a traditional water service in the site with fire hydrants.
All right, so when I brought this up last meeting, when I looked at I went back and looked at the surveys, looked at county sites, I looked at well permits and so forth. There's three wells on that property that I could find. One for the house, two that are older that look like either for a smaller house like a log cabin or maybe for a livestock. They look like they're older, shallower wells. As I understand it, they're not going to be able to re-drill these wells any deeper or any greater extent and use this water. In our regulations here in the city that they're limited by what they can use these wells for.
Well, typically,
what they can do with those wells is largely going to be based on what the Groundwater Conservation District says.
So they've got to survey that.
They'll have to call us and say, we're going to use it for this, and here's the engineering to prove that it can actually produce that.
Right.
And at this point, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. You go ahead.
We're not planning on using those wells for domestic use, with the exception, I guess, of that one well that's serving that existing house that they're living there and using that well. Everyone else would either be using the public water system or
they would be utilizing some sort of.
I guess my fear is that there's 2 shallow wells there that were used basically 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna be sufficient for rainwater, for fire suppression or even for backup, for fire suppression system.
Right, and they won't be used for that. I think we could probably just erase that from the ordinance. I think it was just a carryover that didn't get erased. But also, just in general, when you have a retail water provider, they don't generally like you to keep wells on properties anyways, because they want some guarantee that if they're bringing infrastructure to the site that they're going to be able to serve enough lots to make it worth it for them. So they probably wouldn't even allow us to use it for domestic use either way.
Yeah, those wells would be used for landscape watering or for something like that, but.
If they were used, it would be for landscape
But
only.
if TWC wants to sell their water, they don't want you to use your own.
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
May I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. I'm sorry this was left over that. One of the reasons why I decided to move forward with public water system, even though it's going to cost us a lot of money to just be able to bring it in, is one, to avoid the county regulation on the 5-acre minimum that Mr. Perry was dealing with. Number 2, to deal with fire suppression. Make sure that just typical fire suppression code. We're not doing anything creative. Pipes are coming in. We're going to have the pressure. We're going to have all of that exactly as it is normally, right? And the third thing is concern around backup, right? Drought season, what are we going to do? Are we going to truck in water? And if people still want to have rainwater harvesting as their primary source, they can do that. But at least the backup's right there for them. Does that make sense? And in terms of the electrical, we've done the same. There was some concerns on batteries exploding, things like this. We thought, you know what, we can, if we're bringing water, we're trenching, just put electricity as well. If people want to do that, it's great. If you want to have a supplement or a sole source to have solar, it'll be their choice. We're not imposing any of this anymore. It'll be standard utilities, and people can choose whatever they want. We'll accommodate it.
Well, I saw all that, and I appreciated that you came in last time. You were primarily on rainwater and secondary, and then on solar. I'm wondering next time you'll come in with nuclear and wind. We're gonna get all the options, right? Small nuclear plants too. So yeah, but I understand that we had some reservations here with the fact that rainwater catchment was not going to be adequate for all the designs, but I think all of us understood, and we still understand that no matter how far you get along in this project, if you get to the planning stage and the water is not available, which sounds like you've made proper planning ahead for that it's going to stall. And that was one of the things that I brought up a year ago when y'all came in here, is we don't want to have you going halfway through a project, and you don't want to go halfway through a project and leave a scalpel side in the middle of the Bulverde's main thoroughfare. So we want to make sure that as much water is available to finish the project as possible. And I know that there's no insurances in the world, but if you have, like she said, a wholesale agreement right now.
Not yet. We're working on that.
Yeah, you're working on it, right? Well, you're working on it, and TWC is going to hold your feet to the fire to charge you a portion to put it in too. So, but we know that.
Well, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Because when you're the holder of CCN, you have obligations. And if you don't meet them,
which is a great monopoly to have.
Yeah, but you can opt out of those CCNs if they can provide you water. It's actually pretty simple.
Well, that's just a question of one.
No worries. I have another quick question for staff. Our staff report says that C2 includes authorization for a wastewater plant, but the application says that no wastewater plant is cited or authorized.
There are no.
Okay. So I guess just like a question in general. That was all of my questions, so anyone else has some more. But since there are some things that we've already talked about, like being taken out of this application and kind of some things that need to be cleaned up, Can we, in the future, like have them come back and get the cleaned up version before it goes to council? Because I'd much rather that versus just hoping it gets cleaned up by the time council sees it.
I mean, you'd have to table it again and push it all for another meeting.
That's what I'm looking at. Okay. All right.
May I ask what is it? See, there are three options generally in front of. Remember, we're making recommendations. At this point in time, we're not voting for approval, right? So very typical in planning and zoning meetings that we go to, where there is a concern or there's something that needs to be cleaned up. Basically, that would say you want to be approved conditional on these things being cleaned up. So we recommend approval conditional on. That's typically how, because it's never absolutely 100% clean. You keep on pushing. But please understand, every day for us is money. When you push it for a month, like we are under contract. We keep on having to feed that beast, and also every delay. And I know you don't care. I know people don't care. But for us, every time we just say, "Oh, we're gonna table it," it's a massive impact. So please understand that. You have the mechanism, you have the instrument to say we want it more clean. We will approve you based, with the condition that you clean up this and this and this, and that's all we need. And then we go to staff, make sure that that's properly documented, and we'll do that before we go to council. And that's a very difficult process. Very, very. Just wanted to shed some light.
Not that I want to speak entirely for the last time, but the last time that it was moved forward to council, there were some things that were changed from the things that we recommended. So that's why I want to prevent happening.
Nothing's going to
I want to
change.
make sure that
You have my word.
what we push forward to council is actually what they're going to see.
Nothing's
going
to change.
See it ahead of time.
We've learned that in the past. We actually just changed based on your recommendations. That's why we changed things. It was strictly, honestly, to accommodate your recommendations. If you look at the changes, because you guys said, we approved you, but we wanted this, and that's what we did. So in terms of right now, if you approve of conditions, we will have to meet those conditions, obviously. So we will have to make the modifications with staff's approval and supervision that we're sticking with whatever you're asking for. We want to just do it once, honestly. I think all of us are tired of prolonging this process. And, we just want to have a decision, honestly, and just if it's also decision's good, move forward with this project. We hope it is. God knows we're very invested in this project. And otherwise, we'll just move on to our other projects, right? But we can't keep on doing this for a long time. If that makes sense.
Okay, well, now we get to me, and I'm going to bust your chops, and then I'm going to give you a compliment. Okay, so my dad was my high school football coach, and he was also my principal. And so one time he put me on the special teams, and I was supposed to block a punt. Well, the first 3 times I went out there, I got knocked on my ass. 4th time I blocked a punt. Came over the sidelines, and I thought my dad was going to be proud of me. And he says, "Son, you missed the first 3 times. Mr. Brown, y'all missed the first 3 times. Y'all came in here and you said, boy, y'all, we spent more time on this than anywhere I've ever seen. Well, we've all sat here every night while y'all came in. We've all read through the stuff before we got here. And this is where I compliment you. This is the first time in a year that I've actually had a glimmer of hope that this project was working. Because, you came in with a bunch of stuff that all of us knew were fiction. And now we're down to whittling to a point where we can work with this and make it work. There's a lot of negotiation techniques, and one of them is never settle in the middle. And you do a shock and awe, and you ask for $10, and they offer $1, and you try to meet in the middle. That never works. And I feel like that we were offered this big pile here that everybody knew we were going to reject, and hopefully they were going to whittle it down. We're all diverse personalities, and the city's involved too, and everybody spent a lot of time with this. You guys know what you're doing. You do know what you're doing. Now we need to make you direct it where we wanted you to do. And you're getting there. You're getting there. There's some of the things, the water issue was a main thing that was in my mind. And I still am very concerned about that, but I'm gonna leave that to you. I'm gonna leave that, I'm gonna trust you guys that you gotta get water there to make this work. Now, there's some other things here that I read through and, I have concerns about. Mr. Tucker is absolutely brilliant in his assessment on some of the things that are going on. You need to be upfront about how your water tanks and your water system is going to work. We don't want an elevated tower out there that, is an eyesore for everybody around it. We want the buffers to be right with the neighbors. It's got to be specific. Because we're representing all those people. Another thing that I'm looking at here is, now this is going to be a gated unit, right? It's not going to be gated. Is it going to be gated or not?
No, we're not planning.
Okay.
Unless you guys tell us, hey, we want to get it.
No, I was asking. I'm just asking. Okay, it's not going to be gated. Okay, so that makes me feel better about the park system. You're saying you're going to dedicate.
Did you change it?
No, we're not.
Last month it was HOA only. And there's still
It's
private
HOA.
roads,
It's different.
the private roads.
These are private roads, but not gated, is what you're saying.
Okay, because
So
this
you
is what.
HOA is responsible for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, okay, so this is, all right, thank you, that helps me there, because one of the things I want to clarify was, all right, you want to dedicate this land to the city, or give this land to the city for parks, but the city's not going to take this land for parks if you have a gate up front, because then everybody would be able to go to those parks, and if you're going to have city parks, everybody in the city should be able to use them. So I'm going through this step by step, and Ashley, of course, brought up most of the things that we're concerned about. Things like the tree surveys. We really, the city's really based on hill country views and trees and so forth, and you're going to have to do a tree survey. I know you don't want to do a tree survey all the
Oh, no, we're happy to do a tree survey.
Okay.
But what we're saying is, we would like to do a tree survey where we are disturbing. It's a 330 acre property.
And we've had bigger properties than that came through
No.
to do tree survey.
No, fair enough. And like ultimately, if that's what you guys want,
Yeah.
we'll do it. We've done an inventory already. We have a pretty good idea. It's certified by an arborist. This is not something we did standalone. We just wanted to get an idea. Everything is GPS in terms of survey. If you would accept that inventory for the non-graded areas, and then you would allow us to survey the graded areas, I think that would be a great thing. But again, that's your comfort. Tell us what you'd like.
Most trees are surveyed. It's really acceptable. That's really. Yes.
So engineering is saying GPS is a lot.
You're asking for in your application to get away from the trees, but it's that language is one of the.
Oh, no. What we were saying is the tree survey, we were just asking for consideration that we would only survey the areas that we are disturbing. Because if we're leaving 85% of the property intact, why would we want to survey 85% of the property if it's untouched? Right? So, but we do have an inventory of every single tree. That is an oak tree. We have one willow tree, but mostly, we have one willow tree, and it's beautiful. It's a big willow tree, but otherwise, everything's oak. So that's 15%.
Everything's not oak.
No. I mean the 15%. 15% is oak, right?
Right.
85% is cedar, right? So, but we do have an inventory of all the oaks. That's for sure. But your protected trees, we have a count. We have GPS location and a size. So that's an alternative to. I guess it is a survey.
It doesn't meet the requirements of the city's tree survey.
Right. So, yeah. See, there you go.
I'm not characterizing its quality. I'm saying it doesn't comply.
Yes, and that's basically what we're asking for, because different. It's just categorizing. Like to what level. If you are just taking everything out, typically we have projects like this. You want to survey because you want to make sure that maybe we can preserve some of these trees, and we do. But majority of the trees are coming out in those projects. Now, in this case here, majority is staying, we're not touching it, we only have permission to disturb the grading area. And what we're saying is, if that is the permission we have, then maybe it'd be great if you can allow us to just survey the area that we're gonna cut.
Can I
Yeah, of
provide
course.
something? I don't know if this helps or not, but I'm just providing some context. So in the city of San Antonio, the way that they do their tree ordinance is they basically allow for you to take, they only require that you save, it's like 30% of the trees on site. So if, for example, you survey all of the trees and you are only removing like 10% of the trees, then you have an excess of preservation on the site. The city of Bulverde code does not allow that. It's like if you remove a tree, you're replanting a tree. So surveying an area where we're not providing any disturbance doesn't provide necessarily any additional mitigation requirements to the city, other than you would just know that there's a tree there. So I don't know if that helps clarify, but just wanted to bring that distinction.
Would you be open to the grading area plus a certain additional amount of feet around that grading area?
Sure.
Because as they start moving, as they start grading, it's gonna move. They're just, you know, what you look at from an aerial view and what you do when you get on the ground, it's gonna be completely different.
Sure.
You know, there's some parts of this that I have no problems with. The aspect ratio, I really don't have a problem with, because you get the cul-de-sac, like where I live, cul-de-sacs were, when my house was built, it was in the county. The width of the lot is 35 feet across the front, and in the back is 210 feet. So, you know, you already have plenty of houses in the city that are within an aspect ratio that's different than this. You know, the minimum lot width, minimum lot size, you know, front setback, side setbacks. Those are not make or break points for me. You know, I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on that, but I think that's within realm. We can get everything else. You know, the cuts, I do understand what you're saying about individual lots. I guess where we're concerned is we didn't want to give anybody carte blanche to make these cuts. And we've said this several times, we don't want to give anybody carte blanche to cut on a lot with without, you know, without oversight. We have other builders that have built in the city, and they came in individually on these lots as they were building, and we've been very generous about it. You know, we understand. I can't remember the last time we said no to cut bill requests for an individual lot or a house. You know, we've modified some cut and bill requests for commercial purposes, but I don't know if you guys can remember when we ever had an individual come in and said, I need to cut and fill on a driveway, that we said no. I really can't think of one. So, you know, I think you're there and you don't even realize that you're actually going to get what you need. Just the timing is a little bit off. We want you to do it as you do it rather than do it up front, because we like to keep a little control here in the city.
Can I make a request?
You can make a request, but I don't have any power.
Well, I think the fear is, I know that y'all are saying that y'all granted access to every single lot that's come in, but you know, what if something happens when y'all, a different board sitting on here and y'all don't? You know, and that's really where we're coming from on that driveway request. So if we could have some language in there that says that, you know, we'll present the plans at time of building permit, but y'all would be willing to grant it, then I think we could be a little more flexible on that.
I think that could be written in there, but also understand, okay, so most of us have been here a while, and we just got reappointed, and then you have, you know, city staff, you know, we're gonna have to shoot Danny and get rid of him, you know, so, you know, so we have city staff, you know, and Sandra's gonna be president one day, so she's not going anywhere, but we have city staff that she's asking, what if we make a recommendation and they replace the board and stuff like they don't agree with what we do. Well, you know, there's some continuity here, and we go on historical, you know, there's a gentleman sitting in the front row that was sitting where I'm sitting 10 years ago, so, you know, is that about right? Yeah, yeah, but
Short
you're,
chair though.
yeah. Rub me in, why don't you? Yeah, yeah. Well, there's actually two guys sitting on the front row of the chairs here, so.
Well, and I don't know, I mean, the timing of this development is all based off of market timing, but given the size of these lots and the, the price point that they would sell at, you're easily looking at like a 10 to 15 year project. And so
No, I
it's not like we're asking for this to all happen in the next, 2 or 3 years. It's going to be a long.
Well, I'm planning on being here, but but I don't know.
I mean, I hope you are.
But.
Sure.
All right, so I would like to add one thing. There are multiple aspects to every project. There's the technical aspect where we can come in, just request this on a lot by lot basis. And there's the other aspect, which is if we want financing, the bank needs certain.
No, I understand that, yes.
So please understand that we're not trying to be cute about any of this stuff. We're trying to be practical and be able to make sure that we will spend, just like we're asking you to approve us for something. And you're right, we didn't do our job properly initially. But honestly, maybe because we never dealt with you guys before. We've dealt with other municipalities that were totally okay with what we had asked for. So shame on us, even though we've done some preliminary work to just understand what the city wanted, the technicality of the process, now we know much better, right? So maybe we should do another project.
Well, this is, working with the city of Old Verde, I can tell you, it's just like working with the government. It takes forever to get it right. But once you do, nobody else can get in because you're the only ones that know how to do it right. And there's multiple people that work here and every day, and our city staff is excellent. They're great. We have, the best people. They should be paid more. I said that out loud, but they do a good job for us. And we're very. I know that the rest of us are sitting here going, we're very pleased that this is a better presentation than the last ones we've seen, but it's going to have to be fine tuned. And our water expert is Brad. He's not here tonight. I'm sure he had some comments about the water tower and water aspects of it.
May I correct one thing?
Yeah.
Please? Sorry for the interruption. There will be no water tower. That's
Okay,
not,
what are we going to do?
that's not
going to be what?
We're going to have a water storage tank.
Okay, underground, below gradient, or
Well,
above ground?
We have Topo working for us, right?
Okay.
So we're not gonna go vertical.
Vertical, okay.
We're not. Like,
Right, no, yeah, we would do, yeah, that had to be written in. So you're saying you don't want to go. He's like saying. Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, so we never intended to have power.
Okay.
And if we didn't articulate it well, we apologize. We wanted to have a ground level, maybe slightly higher, storage area for the water.
Okay. All right, we'd have to write that in.
So that would be named.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good with that.
Now, at the PDD stage, is that where we talk about the design requirements of this tank, or can we say later on during the platting, whenever that section's platting, or we're going forward to build whatever the tank is going to look like, they have to come before us again?
No, this would be the time, traditionally, they're only approved by SUVs, so, you've been through several of those already in the last year. We're basically rolling that process into this one. So if you wanted to have aesthetic controls, or, we're limited on what we can do with that. If you wanted to discuss those kind of things like you did in the other items, they have to be included in this, process, and it's not at this time.
So what would be something you would like to see?
I don't
That was
know.
a definition.
So I think for me, and again, this is much better than the other things, right? So again, it's all about how do we, in these, very short meetings that long, but in relative short meetings, like how much can we really get through and like sink our teeth into? So my only concern with like the water storage at this point is we have all this other stuff we need to talk about, right? With R2 and C2 and R5 and all of that.
but then now we also have this other layer of a water tank or water storage facility and all these water situations that we also need to talk about. That in reality, our time is very finite. So my thought is, I would much rather, and I don't know if this is possible or not, if we can go through the process without the storage tank, and then maybe come back for an SUP for the storage tank, so we can just focus on that matter at that time.
So, we're okay with the specs being approved, obviously. We're not gonna be putting anything up there without the city approval, in terms of engineering, all of that. In terms of the concept of having a location, saying what, we're okay to have this, if we don't have a storage tank for water, how do we do public water system? We can't, right? And we need to talk private pushing. So that's the only reason we're saying, basically it's conceptual planning, which is really, we all stress concept, right? At planting time, you can hold us to all the regulations and TCQ regulations, city regulations. We're not escaping those, nor are we asking for variances.
Because that's my question, is the PDD somehow going to supersede something in the future that they can automatically get approved without us seeing it? Or do we have to actually put in language in this PDD what that water storage tank is going to be? And
yeah, you'd have, if you want to lay out standards for that water storage tank, they will have, if the tank use is approved in the PDD, then you're going to have to include any standards you want with that tank in the PDD.
So that's where my concern is.
Does the city code and not have standards for water tanks that y'all would?
They're not allowed by right. You have to come in and get a special use permit for them. And typically what we see is they're being shoved to the edge of development. So we're looking for things to protect neighboring properties, privacy fences, noise ordinances, things like noise restrictions, things like that.
Lighting restrictions,
stuff like that. In this case, it's in the middle, but you guys.
It's also on top of the hill where.
On top of the hill, high visibility. So it's up to you if you want that level of standards for this facility. They have to be incorporated into this if it's going to be part of this, and you want. Otherwise, it's going to be an allowed use. There'll be engineering technical specifications and building code into that.
But no other
considerations.
Since it sounds like it's maybe privacy fencing related, could we add some language in there now that says, a privacy fence will be provided around the site?
And to be honest, I have concerns without seeing a full plan from you guys, what the water tank would actually, typically when a water tank does come forward, I totally get you guys want, right? Typically when they come forward, it is part of that SUP process. We see images of what it's going to look like. We see how big the tank is going to be. We see a ton of information at that time of what that water tank
the elevations and so forth.
And I have a lot of hesitation about just again, I'm not trying to say carte blanche, but in a way saying like, yep, you have a water tank and we have none of that information of what that's going to be.
And then when you're denying it, you've denied it in the past, what are you denying it based off of?
How it looks, how big it is, where it is. I mean, there's a lot.
I mean, I guess if we're looking for ways to protect the city on that, I mean, typically water storage facilities are placed on the high points of the site. I talked about before, this one's in the middle of the site. It's not adjacent to any of the surrounding properties. It's not adjacent to 281. So we can push it back as far as we can there. So, I mean, if we can get the location approved and then, come back and negotiate specifics of it, I think,
I think the location being on top of the hill is fine, but again, just saying that if we say part of this PDD, this location, and later on, we're not gonna see it again, so you can build it as a water tower.
Well, it sounds like you could put in the ordinance that we're approving a location contingent upon seeing site plans or something like that.
I mean, you could say that you could approve the location and still require an SUP in the future for it, but I don't know that that's gonna give you the assurances you're looking for. You won't be able to build it until you come and get the SUP.
Right.
So we just need to be clear about what's being asked for, what we're comfortable with, so that they know what recommendation they need.
I mean, I think the challenges that we're facing right now is that, y'all want a public water supply, we came with a public water supply, we gotta have the infrastructure needed to do the public water supply. And so
No, we're with you all
I
the way.
I don't feel like we're kind of at an impasse there.
It's more about the technical process, right? And
Yeah.
that's what makes it really difficult to try and figure this out.
I mean,
No, we're with you. We're just trying to
Sure.
protect the neighbors.
No.
We're trying to do the aesthetics for the neighbors.
Okay, so back to Mr. Pat's question, and how we can potentially look. We're not married to a certain look or feel at this point in time. Honestly, we have no idea what that's going to look like. We need to make sure that wherever it's being placed, we have the proper total, proper design, size. A lot of stuff that typically happens at that time, we would have to do, right? If we can say generally the concept is approved, that we have approval for.
I mean, that's not really, and I don't mean to interrupt you, that's not really actionable from our standpoint. We don't have general approvals. It's either approved or it's not.
Okay, so if it's approved for the location?
That's not any good. Approval of location doesn't give you the right to build it ever.
Okay.
And so you indicated you need some certainty about this.
We need certainty. I'll tell you what we need certainty though, that we can ultimately build.
And that's
Now,
not
based,
really certainty.
yeah, but based on, yeah, but the thing is, but hold on, that can be subject to your approval in terms of the design and all of that.
But that's what
We're
I'm
good.
saying, we don't have a way of doing that.
Yeah, there's no way to.
We can make in an SUP that's not well.
I mean, that's an SUP. We could just take it out of here and you address it as an SUP later.
I don't know honestly if our banks will go for that, just because they want to know we have water, right? Like
I have a quick question. Could we do the SUP at the same time as doing the PDD?
I mean, if you put the two together, then we're gonna have to go through it. We're way too early in the process for this neighborhood. Those kind of authorizations are generally only sought after the MDP's approved, when that phase of the plat has been done.
could we add, oh, I'm sorry.
You'd have to have certainty about its location, its size, its technical specifications, and I don't believe any developer would be able to have that information this early in the process, especially when you don't even know if Texas Water is going to be the final approval, utility approving authority.
Could we add some language in there that says the city, the planning and zoning approves the SUPs, or does it have to go to city council?
No, they have to go to city council. They're basically a zoning district and they have to follow state law procedures.
Okay, so can we add some language in the PDD that says that planning and zoning and city council to approve the necessary infrastructure required to serve a public water utility on this?
There's no purpose to create a different process. We already have a process for that.
Except for, how is that if y'all just denied it and then said you're not gonna allow a tank on site?
We could do that with the language you're talking about. You're saying that P&Z and council have to approve it later. They could just not. And that's no different than you coming in with an SUP later and it not getting approved. So the only way this works is if the use is just approved at this point, to be frank. Because we're trying to do front end so much. That's why the approvals are more generic than we would typically see. Am I explaining that clearly?
No, you're saying it perfectly. Okay. That's what we're all thinking is, that's where we've been frustrated. We're being thrown a lot to approve up front without specifics. And on their behalf, but they're trying to get everything lined up so that they can move forward, but they don't have specifics either yet.
So
Madam
question.
Chairman, I was just waiting we got to our part where we were discussing ourselves, but we already hit kind of the nail on the head here.
Okay.
So on page 55 of the packet, bullet point number 2. I think the cart's been in front of the horse this whole time. Who cares about page 55?
On their in the middle
Oh, page 10. Good. Talking about right of ways, talking about street widths, and talking about cuts and fills. What's the point of any of it if it's not for the water? So it says the public water supply will be supplied by connection to retail public water utility anticipated from Highway 281 corridor along the eastern property line and or by the existing on-site water wells. Well, we've already nixed, Greg already nixed this water well thing. Anticipated 281 corridor. So we don't even have this. This is a hope and a dream. Next. Both options require the installation of water toward storage tank on the hilltop with water delivered through authorized booster pump station. That's kind of where we're talking right now is this storage tank. But we don't have one specification, not one measurement, nothing, zero. Booster pump station shall be placed based on chosen public water supply. So again, we've got a contradiction here. We don't have the public water supply, but we're talking about it's going to be placed based on that public water supply. Then the on-site water treatment facility may be required by the public water system provider if required. So it may be required. If required, it is authorized as a permitted component of the shared public water system under this PDD, subject to TCEQ permitting. The location of the booster pump station and or that of the water treatment plant, it's the first time we're hearing about the water treatment plant, shall be determined upon detailed engineering drawings. Do we have those detailed engineering drawings? No. No. Why are we talking about any of this other stuff? We don't have water.
That's the question.
No. This is amongst us. This isn't for you.
Okay, I was.
No.
Actually,
It's not for you.
I wasn't sure.
I think for me, I think there's just so much that we need to discuss, no matter how this goes with the voting tonight, to where if they do need to adjust things, they at least have the knowledge of all the different things that we want to talk about. And so yes, the water is a very big deal.
Well, you can't live in a home without
course.
water. So
Of course.
I think it's the deal.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't think we talk about anything else unless we have that contract with the water supply company. What's the point?
All right, so let me shed some light on a couple of things. State law is clear on the concept of rainwater harvesting, and that there's a massive, there's a bill actually in place, I'm sure Mr. Gatsby, where the state not only mandates approval of, ensures that municipalities cannot deny developments based on the fact that those developments are choosing rainwater harvesting. So we can go back down the path of rainwater harvesting, right? If that's what you want us to do, we're on. Let's do it, right?
Can I?
So
you also, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I need to reset the conversation. The city is limited on when it can intervene about water. So, for example, the property is zoned today with no assurances of water. It's zoned for R3 and R2 and commercial and multifamily. Our opportunity is at the planning stage. That's when we can require you to tell us who your water supplier is going to be and approve with that contract. That's not something that we can flag and require generally in the zoning process. And I want to make sure that's clear. We are required to take any state-approved water supplier that they show up with.
Okay.
I mean, if they show up with Lubbock Power and Light somehow, we have to take it. So I want to be clear that we don't have wide discretion here. And when we do have that discretion, it's at a different stage of the process. They're claiming, and I don't mean to make that sound bad, they're claiming that when they move forward, they'll have a state-approved water provider. We don't have the authority to say we don't believe you in a zoning context. I want to just make that clear.
So, Mr. Batts, if they go with the Texas Water Supply Company, will it automatically be a MUD?
No, MUDs cannot be created inside city limits without the city's consent. Now, I'll make the point that a CCN is a powerful monopoly, but it is not an absolute monopoly, and there are ways to get around it. And so, just because Texas Water has, at this time, suspended water supply to new developments does not mean that there are not other legal avenues. And again, we cannot dictate to a developer what legal avenue he chooses. And we can't say that because the current CCN holder today can't provide water, we won't let you move forward, because there are potentially other options they could trigger. At the plating stage, we can, but not at this stage.
Thank you. Question for you.
Certainly.
So you said something about use.
Mm-hmm.
Can you clarify that?
So when I talk about approving the use of the water booster pump station, that can be as broad or as narrow as the commission and council want it to be. It could be as simple as you're allowed to have one on this location, and that's it. It can be more complicated. You can have one, but it's going to be surrounded by a 10-foot wall, and it's going to be painted brown, camouflage, and X, Y, and Z won't be more than 30 feet high. So there's a range of how the use can be approved.
So is it possible, because that could be language, just so you know. So would it be possible for us to have approved use, but where we're not necessarily binding the city by, like exact specifications or anything like this, but basically we say, you know what, we're approved, the city approves us for use. Ultimately, we can have booster pumps, but subject to your approval.
All of those things are tied up in the initial approval of the use. So if we approve it at one point, then it's approved. And by whatever we do or don't put on it at the time it's approved. There's no circling back later. You have vested rights to that. If you move on it, file an application on it, you'll gain vested rights to it, and we won't have an opportunity to come back and say, well, now we want a polka dotted wall. That's got to be done when the use is approved. It's got to be done at the time the use. There's no such thing as a conditional use that is approved but not really is approved, but with later approvals are required. That's not something we have.
Nobody. I have to say something honestly, and it's heartfelt. We've dealt with many municipalities, and I can tell you, you guys have planning and zoning staff that understands more about the code than anybody else we have seen. And I'm not kissing us. Just so I mean, hey, excuse my language. But so the question to you is, understanding our constraints.
Mm-hmm.
What would be a good mechanism for us to give certain level of assurance that the city can do?
I mean, I really think there's only two options here between, either to approve it generally without extra restrictions, or to say we're not going to approve it as part of the PDD and come back for an issue. I really feel like those are the only two practical options at this point, because every other application we've seen for a water facility has been after plating has already begun, after the plats have been approved, when the water company is already chosen, and the water company comes in with their standards and the developer's standards, and the ball is on the 5-yard line, not the 50-yard line. And so I've never seen one in my entire career this far in advance, unless it was a general approval where just they'll have one and we won't have any input on what it looks like.
But would you have input on specifications?
The building code, but engineering, which I don't think anyone's really concerned that you're going to build a substandard facility that's going to collapse and flood a bunch of,
Okay, so what is the concern? Is it the looks? So if we know that we're not going to build anything, the engineering is tight, right? We're going to have to.
Well, and let me coach that again. The city doesn't generally regulate aesthetics, but we can regulate things that affect the value of the surrounding property owners, right? So if you do something that's detrimental to the community that causes all the surrounding property owners to lose value on their homes, which is the biggest investment in most people's lives, then we can regulate that. We're limited,
That's the 200.
more or less. That's not so part of that.
That's typically,
But typically it's the people
it's
within
200, right?
And so,
Yeah, so if we are compliant, we have no choice but to be compliant with the engineering codes. We have no choice. We will have to calculate the capacity. We will have to come in and build to building code. We have no choice.
yeah, there's no choice on that.
Very good. So if the issue is aesthetics, we can look at that. Just tell us what would be, like, if we were to come with something, like, what would be those parameters, aesthetic parameters that you guys, I mean, I'm,
Quick question,
yeah,
sorry.
please, go ahead.
If his water provider says he has to have a water storage tank, can we actually say no? And then-
We've done it before, Thornburg Road.
But then
Many
what
times.
but then what happens at that time?
Then that's a water provider's problem. They can put a different facility farther down the line. It's exceptionally rare for a water provider to not be able to provide service at all, because they can't locate a facility in the bounds of the development. They'll usually move across the street and put it there. You'll notice there's a lot of water towers in our area right on the city border, and they provide water for the most part just fine. But no, we're not obligated to accept, we, the city, are not obligated to accept the water provider's supposed limitations on their system.
And that's the issue we have, in terms of like the bank saying, well, you could be without water, right? And so if we,
But your water provider would have to find a way to get it to you.
oh no, we will be able to get it to the property line. That's, but the water provider, generally, that's where they stop, right? We would have to take it from there, tap into their pipes, and then we take it from there to be able to supply. And then they basically monitor the meters and, all of that stuff. And Mr. Batts is right. We're not honestly too worried about Texas Water Company being the CCN. They've been failing as a CCN provider, and under state law, we can very quickly get out of that CCN. It's just the way it works. A CCN holder has an obligation under state law to provide adequate and continuous water supply within its CCN. Texas Water Company has been failing that, and as such, they're no longer deserving of honestly holding the CCN, and anybody like this will get out of that CCN. If they have their own water, they will get out. You gotta understand something. We're taking more risk than anybody else in this room. In terms of, like we are taking more risk, I hope everybody agrees, than anybody else in this room. If you're worried about the aesthetics, we're worried about a whole bunch of other things. We are not going to move forward with a project that doesn't have water. We cannot do that, right? Meaning, if the Texas Water Company can't provide it, well, if we don't have a backup plan, we will not be here in front of it. And Mr. Vass is right. We will have to prove that on planning. We're negotiating. We have very good attorneys that are working with us on that matter. And at this point in time, we're confident that when we come to planning, we will have the answers and we will have something that satisfies the city. The only thing we're asking for, if we are compliant, we have to be, we have no choice, with engineering. If we are compliant with all the specs and the code, we have to have the proper size. Obviously, that's all in the code, baked in. If the issue is a limitation on the look or the height, we can put that in the PDD. We can say, the height cannot exceed this much.
You need 1 second.
Yeah, of course.
I just want to kind of poll us internally really fast. Are we leaning towards, or how are you guys feeling about having it within the PDD versus an SUP later on? Pulse check.
I think we can put it in PDD because later on, it's gonna be It's gonna, like Danny said, when we reach the plating stage, is when the rubber hits the road.
But if we put it in the PDD, then just do it. We don't get a review on it at all.
As long as
It's
the water
current.
provider is there, yeah.
So my only concern is us not being water engineers.
Right, this is what
We
we
don't
can
know
grab.
what all of the options are, so how do we put limitations on it if we don't know what our boundaries are?
Well, one thing you also mentioned is that we wouldn't be in front of you if we didn't have everything, our ducks in a row, basically. Yet there's not one word in this document that says, where is it coming from?
That's not required at this point
It's
in
not,
time, though.
but he said we wouldn't be in front of you if we didn't have the security.
Oh, no, that's what I said. I said we wouldn't be in front of you if we didn't have a plan. That's what I said.
Plan.
And it needs
We
to
have a
be
plan, we have a plan.
Yeah.
So, and again, like, remember,
I think, I can't speak for council, but I would think council would agree.
But, yeah,
So are you on the list even for Texas Water Company? Since the CCN
we're
No,
not,
you're
we're
just-
not interested, to be honest.
going straight with,
We're not
uh,
interested.
because Texas Water Supply Company, that water is actually water that we're all using too. It's the Trinity. And so at least with Texas Water Company, that's Canyon Lake water, it's well water, it's rainwater, it's surface water. So, and then with, 60 to 85% of our water being used on people's lawns, I just feel like if you go with Texas Water Supply Company, the ones that are already here, our wells are going to be, I know that you're the one that's the most impacted in the room, but actually you're not. Because
Oh, no,
all of us
I apologize.
will be severely impacted too, because they're a water wholesaler. So they're just gonna pump, and I know they would
Would
too.
you like us to go with that? Rainwater harvesting is coming from the sky. Zero impact on
I
everyone.
don't think it, I'm Miss Pie in the Sky, and I think that's a fantastic thing. But for you to go with water coming from the Texas Water Company and also doing the rainwater catchment, I think that's a more sustainable situation.
Well, if the Texas Water Company provides water, we'd be happy to. They can.
Right. Can you
Well,
tell
I
me?
really need to step in and make sure.
Yes,
We cannot tell them who they can and cannot use for water.
okay,
Any state authorized water provider, we have to accept.
Okay.
So I want to be clear about that. I don't want this to overstep our bounds.
Yeah.
So you're,
So to be
That's
clear,
where
I
I'm
just wanted to clarify something. In terms of the specs, we will have to comply with engineering requirements
On the booster station?
on the booster station and the storage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we cannot build anything that is not compliant with engineering standards and city code. We cannot build it without your approval at the platting level. Please understand that. So there's already a code governing what that should look like. In terms of engineering. So I don't believe that should be a concern in terms of. And Mr. Vance, you can say your piece on that. Is this something that should be considered?
I mean, generally speaking, like we've had examples of water towers being put on the absolute edge of a property and putting existing properties in permanent shadow, which clearly harms the community by destroying property values. So I want to be clear, we're not going to be making any decisions about whether we think it's pretty or ugly. We don't make those kind of decisions here. We look at impacts to surrounding property owners. I don't know at this point, because we're so far out, what possible negative side effects this particular facility could have. Maybe none, maybe some, I don't know.
On the neighborhood.
On neighboring properties.
Which is
That's the only thing,
200.
besides looking at the engineering. that's what we'd be looking at potentially.
But it's restricted to 200 feet.
I mean, it's not, if we could prove negative impact beyond that, we can go beyond that, but, that's what our analysis is gonna be constrained to, impact on the community and surrounding property owners.
Which is within.
Well, it's within the scope of the impact. I mean, and it applies to more than just water towers. I mean, hog farms, you could go by if the smell carries for 20 miles, you can turn it down on that. So I don't know, because we're so far in advance, I don't have any specific plans. I can't tell you what the scope of the impact of this potentially would be and what we might recommend to remediate that impact. There may be none, I don't know.
So, just one last thing on this. You said you want us to go back to the rainwater, but on that same page, it says rainwater harvesting will be up to homeowners as their option way, primary or secondary water source, or scope R2 single family lots. So this means with potable water service available to every lot from public water system regulated by Texas Commission on Environmental Quality under 30 TAC, Chapter 290, Subchapter D. I don't care what comes with it, but it says potable water available to every lot. I don't have a contract. And I know we're not at that stage, but we're putting the cart in front of the horse.
Yes,
We just
if we get down the line and they can't get water, then it can be platted, so then it
Right.
doesn't.
And I want to make the point again, property is zoned now with no certification about water or to a higher density. So that's not going to be that's not going to be a valid point to stand against.
We can't turn it down based on that.
Based solely on that, right? Because like I said, it's already zoned for higher density without those
And
certifications
the
today.
PDD only requires that there is a plan in place.
Right,
Not
so
that there's
not
something
that it's,
already.
because again, at the zoning, typically, zoning stage comes well in advance of the planning stage. Because you can't plat contrary to the zoning. So you almost always have to have your zoning lined out first. And the planning stage is when the rubber meets the road, when a lot of alignments are assigned, when they know what the actual system would look like and what the requirements would be for a water system and whether this is a pump station is needed or not. That's all stuff we hit at the planning stage.
So we have a solution. All right. So actually, work had a brilliant solution. It's going to cost me a lot of money. Okay. We will bury it.
Okay.
How's that? So you can put this in your ordinance that we will have a water storage that's not visible. And if we meet that, and trust me, it's going to cost us a lot of money. But I'm okay with that because it gives us that certainty. That's how much we're willing to pay for that certainty. We bury it and we comply with the engineering requirements. What else do you have in terms of?
So now I'm saying through the logistics of burying it, which I do
But that's our
appreciate.
issue.
Yeah, but I'm also thinking about, that's obviously more than 4-foot cut in that area in order to accomplish that, correct? 'Cause I mean, we had like a pool that had come forward with a
I mean,
variance at one
if you
point,
authorize
so-
an underground water tank, that is going to be considered authorized as part of approving that tank.
But right now, I'm just thinking of the implications of like what that.
We're trying to accommodate, and I get it. You know, neighbors are worried about, the look and the tower, and I get it. I wouldn't want a tower, honestly. I'm looking up and disarray. I hate it. That's why from the beginning we said, we're not gonna have a tower. We're gonna have it. Initially, we were thinking, like ground level, and I guess just to make sure that you guys are here, we're willing to bury it, and if we are burying it, we're taking away any concern around looks. And if the code enforces the engineering and the specs on size and on all of that, we have to comply with that. So I believe this is a really good middle ground where NPD is approved, underground, not visible, and complies with engineering requirements.
Just a quick question.
Yeah, of course.
What goes on top of the area where it's buried?
What would you like to go on
No,
top of? How would you?
I mean, I'm pretty sure you're not going to, TCEQ is not going to allow anything to be on top of the water.
Okay, so I just wanna make sure it's not just a giant barren, what we see now.
Well, it might be
people
grass,
don't
but it's not gonna be, it's
No
not gonna be.
amusement park, no amusement roller coaster.
We're gonna bury it. Nobody will see it. Does that make sense? Does that
Yeah.
solve the problem?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I always like asking.
No, that's good. No, it's good because you know what, we understand, but we're listening. You know, we obviously live in homes, and last thing we want is to look up and see water tower. Okay.
Really quick, would you guys be okay with a quick just 5-minute recess? Because it has been over 2 hours that we've been at this and we can come back to questions?
Yes.
Is that okay? Okay.
More questions?
Just 5 minutes, a
Okay.
5-minute recess and then we'll probably have more questions after that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I'll say 8:20, we'll get started. So a little more than 5
All right.
minutes.
We'll be here.
8:21. Okay, before I know that we're still waiting on the applicant, I think, oh no, you are here, sorry. I guess further questions, concerns that people may have before we kind of discuss internally. And give everyone one last shot. Oh, I did have one, after I was on this last page. Now, I will say I'm a little rusty with our tree mitigation, when it's required, when it's not, and all this. But my one question was, you still haven't hit the $200,000 cap of tree mitigation. But I know the cash part only covers like 25% of the caliber. So if we reach that 25,000, what happens to the balance if that's, you know what I mean? Like, or like doing other, like having to do this, you know the tree mitigation more than I do.
So basically, it's
Even if-
25% by right. That
Yes.
can be paid fee in lieu. It's up to 50% if you can get an arborist to certify that there's no possible way to replant the delta between 75 and 50.
Mhm.
What they're proposing is to replace that with a hard cap of 200,000. When they hit 200,000, they just keep going, and that's when they stop paying money.
But then are they planting the extra that goes past the 200,000?
I don't believe so. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong,
That's
but
what that was my question was.
that's the exemption they're asking for.
Okay, so not planting beyond.
Well, I mean, we had it, so we would plant 2 trees per lot.
Mhm.
And if you'd like us to stick with that, we're happy to.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
There's
I mean,
more of a question.
yeah. I mean, we just thought those lots have a lot of trees in them, and for us to go put like two trees just may not be. I mean, if you want us to do it, we're happy to do it. But ultimately, the only reason why we asked for a cap, and we believe we will not get to the cap, honestly, but we have to do this for financing purposes. Right? They don't want any, and I know people don't care for that. Obviously, we do. If we want the project, we need to make sure we're covering all bases. And one of them is ensuring there's no risk. And, you know, we've seen situations where projects didn't move forward because of tree issues, right? We believe because we're limiting, again, what we're mitigating is, let's work out the math. This property has 15% of the trees are protected. We are keeping 85% of the trees, which means we are keeping 85% of 15%.
If it comes out that way.
But let's say
Yep.
on an average, right? And we have tree inventory that gives us a pretty good idea what we are taking out and what we are not, right? So, but we need the cap. Just from financing perspective, we honestly don't believe we're going to go over that, right? But again, that kind of language, we have it in every single one of our zoning. I'm happy to show you everything we've done in the past. That cap is not always met, but it has to be there. For most developers, they would want it. That's all.
But Danny, quick question too. Under this current application, are they allowed by right within the grading area to remove all of the trees to where they don't have to mitigate it? Or is it like, it was
It's
the
my
mitigation
understanding,
only
Heath,
for?
correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, y'all are asking for the grading area, which would include the driveway, that 0.16 acre and a 20-foot surrounding footprint, is that correct?
So there would be no restrictions on removal and no mitigation of trees in that zone.
Right, that's what you're asking.
Yeah, but I believe her question is currently in the code.
No.
Okay.
I'm curious what you're asking for.
Yes.
So I'm also curious too, technically, if all of that is allowed by right, is he gonna pay anything for mitigation?
Well, and I think we had that comment in the last round. I'm not sure if they're saying they want exemption, within the right of way, which they're almost certainly gonna get anyway. And within the driveway and building footprint in the 0.16 acre is no mitigation. You're not gonna cut anything down outside of that area. Where would you be cutting down trees outside of that area that you'd have to mitigate? Or are you proposing to mitigate the trees you cut down in those areas? I'm not sure.
Well, what we're saying is if we were to cut trees in that area, we would pay
Mitigation
the-
up to.
Yeah, so we're offering that. We're not saying we want it for free, we will do it and we'll mitigate with the
Okay,
city.
but we've always granted them, we've always in the past granted the footprint, the driveway, that's in the
Well,
city.
what I need a clarification though too is building footprint where we don't know the actual footprint of the building at this point.
Oh, that's
right?
true, yeah.
Because it's just an arbitrary rectangle.
Right.
It's not, the house could be L-shaped.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where it was preserving. the
Now,
tree.
we've made people move driveways, we make people move their footprints and so.
So we don't give you exceptions for driveways.
Yeah.
So it's building footprint plus 10 feet.
Right.
Rights of way when when your engineer can certify that it has to be done that way.
Yeah.
Which that's not hard. And so what the extra here would be within the driveway.
Yeah.
And then,
I was like building pad.
Yeah.
there's a term for
There's
it.
extra 10% on the
Building
buildable
area.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a buildable area and there's grading. The buildable area is
So what I'm
outside.
understanding is that you're willing to do a tree survey within those areas and mitigate within those areas with a $200,000 cap. And so that's what we'll end up with in an ordinance if we make it to that stage,
Okay.
written out explicitly.
That makes sense.
So you brought up the 2 trees that y'all would be installing. For me, those are very important because everybody wants to keep their oak trees, but for wildlife and for insects and birds and things, they need a variety. So in our code of different kind of trees, the owners could select a different type of tree that's beneficial for everything.
Is your preference that we put those 2 trees in Pula?
Yes.
I mean, so we have 8 replacement tree species. Are you recommending that the 2 trees that are planted must come from that list?
I think so.
To clarify.
But we ask for limitation on size, right? So
Yeah.
because-
So I mean,
So like,
the
we typically do
4 inches instead of 6 inches.
4 inches.
Yeah, so instead of a 6-inch replacement, we get a 4-inch.
4-inch
Mhm.
replacement, so,
But it would come from that list.
so 2 times 4 from the list.
Can you explain also the water catchment that would be on the lots? You said there would be a redundancy, so would there be two smaller ones instead of one big one that was 25,000?
Well,
gallons?
so yes, typically we would like to have 2, even if they're side by side.
Mhm.
That's the current plan. We will have them all precast concrete instead of the plastic stuff that you see out there. They last longer, they're so much better ultimately. And the other thing is by splitting them, you could potentially be more flexible with these lots.
Mhm.
But the catchment area, we're actually looking at some really cool technology. We have done some awesome research on how we can increase the catchment area effectively, even though we're looking now at about 3,500 square foot roof, even potentially up to 4,000. So that should be plenty. We're working with Dr. Sun. He basically is helping us with some of these calculations. But we also have a lot of data from different academic data, different researchers, and we're happy to ultimately later on happy to provide you with any information you'd like on that. But yeah, I mean, we believe we have a good formula for that. And honestly, we believe our formula is something that we can potentially set some standards with. That, splitting the tank is a great idea. Not many people would do that. And it's something that's standard that we established in the whole country. If somebody wants to, we're truly like trailblazing on setting standards with this particular project.
So it would be good if you had every lot had to have a catchment, because that way, whether they use it for their yard or for inside their house, then it becomes part of a sponge community instead of just it running off. I mean, I know that many of the houses would have a catchment, but that way it's catching more water, and you can either store it or you can use it, and that way they're not being flooded so much on the other side of 281.
Yeah. So in terms of so is it a question? I'm happy to answer.
I just feel that if every lot should have a rainwater catchment, and
instead of it being optional.
Well, so I'll let you answer it first, but I'm talking, I'd like to address it in two ways. Yes, it makes a lot of sense, especially for irrigation purposes, as well as for other usage. We are incurring a lot of costs by bringing in public water. Right? So it will have to be that the owner would want that. Now we can, from an HOA perspective, so we can have like a smaller, like a must-have, maybe like I don't know, like 500 gallon or something like this. But we can ask. We're not going to be able to do this and the public water system on our cost. So the homeowner will have to opt for it and share in the cost, right? That is why, initially I wish we could have done it the other way, because we would have incurred all those costs. But now people would have to choose it, and there's efficiency from a cost perspective, that you'll be cutting your water bills, et cetera, et cetera. But it'll be a personal choice. Yeah.
I also just wanted to mention that one of the requirements of the city at the plating stage is a stormwater management plan that would show how we're mitigating for the increase in runoff from the project. And also, from a subdivision standpoint, we would have to submit one, and then the city also requires them on a per lot basis anytime you go into a building permit. So there's lots of mechanisms for the city to review that and make sure that we're not being bad neighbors.
I know drainage has been, and stormwater management has been, it's been a big, but we're not asking for any variance. We will comply with the city code requirements. We will comply with city code, and I believe our approach will mitigate, naturally will mitigate, just by having a retention on, will actually stop a lot of that flow, the fast flow going down. So just the existence of that would make a big difference. Like the current state is bad. Like as it stands right now, it's bad. It'll only get better having detention system now.
And are y'all still planning to use like Hill Country Alliance's landscaping model for the?
Yeah, they're excited.
Okay.
They're very excited for that. So we will have xeriscaping as a standard enforceable. And that's something.
Well, that's never happened before.
Well, I'm glad it didn't fall on Mr. Porter's head. That's just.
As long as it hit me on the head, I'd be all right.
Yeah. So
what was hold that up there 5 minutes? Sure will.
Yeah.
Is that blue and black struck? Exactly what it was. Yeah. It looks like it'll hang for a while. Yeah. There's not one over here. Okay. We can keep going.
Any other questions?
Would you be willing to get rid of this lot here? I know that's $1 million right there. And then also the lots that are in the riparian buffer, these 1, 2, 6, 8, to make those 3, and then make this these 2 1.
We honestly can't take any more discount on the number of lots. I'll explain to you why. The price we're paying for this property is proportional to the current zoning for this property. It is R2 and R3. 2/3 of the single family side is R3, which is half acre lots, right? And then our work you pay based on zoning. We already took a massive discount by going to 1 acre lots. Please understand that. Massive discount. So to be able to do more of that, you just lost 5 lots. I know it sounds like, 5 lots, it's nothing. Again, please understand, every lot makes a massive difference for us at the end of the day. You're shaving off, it's not proportional. So, when you're taking 1 lot at the end of the project, that's straight margin. And we don't get there. You are welcome to look. The numbers in our business is not hidden. right? Like the numbers, you can go, there are companies like Meritage Homes, Lennar, all of these guys have their financials posted because they're publicly traded companies. You will see the margins of the business. 10%, 11%.
Just this one lot. It's
You
probably
don't
not
like that
even-
lot, I know. No. Well, how about this?
Can you put the, or put the riparian buffer zone, or with the lots?
58, say there 68. I think it's 68.
I can know it as.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when we put trouble.
Yeah, that lot,
That one lot to
That one.
this one?
Yes.
yeah, it's aggressive.
Even with the L-shaped house, I don't think you're getting, right?
Well,
So it's 228. This one right here. The house is in the riparian buffer.
yeah, actually, it's not supposed to be. That's a fast, because we had 3 days to
Yeah.
review all this. What's that?
Oh, that's one of the, that's one of the 11, correct?
Yes, yes, but yeah, we're taking it up,
So question two, I mean, I forget the number of lots now, it's like
229.
Okay, but then there's still the upper cap up to 235. Is there ever an opportunity we are gonna be going up to
We don't believe that, do we?
I thought y'all
and
capped,
still, do we need that, do we still need that
that
cap?
they didn't have that even mentioned in this, that I saw.
I think it's also important to remember, and I understand that, like, we're trying to drill down into these specifics, but, and I'm also, we're not going through, like, we haven't gone to do, like, super detailed engineering, so the chances of us, like, gaining a bunch of lots or losing a bunch of lots aren't realistic with the site, of the site, but, I mean, is it possible to say, we get into design and we realize that, oh, this lot isn't what we think it's gonna be, so we have to combine it with another lot? Yes, that's possible. Is it also possible that we could say, I mean, we've pretty much maxed this out density wise with the 1 acre lot, so unless we were to change the lot sizes, I don't see where we could get some, but you're looking at a range for that reason, because we haven't designed like every single lot, every single, this is a concept, and we've done way more detail than we normally would do at this stage, but it's still very preliminary, and so giving us a couple lot buffer helps in case of something happening where we're like, oh, we have to lose a lot over here, but we can gain a lot over here. I mean, we're not asking for like a huge range of lots. It's just, that's also part of the reasoning in the language of PD, like I mentioned earlier, that we can flex a lot line so that we get into design and we're like, oh yeah, we missed that during PDD, but that whole lot in the riparian buffer, so we wouldn't be able to develop it. We got to shift a lot line over so we can, get some of that into a lot type thing.
I guess what we were at, I know, I'm thinking that, I'm not sure if we're thinking the same thing, but I know that what we're thinking is that just like y'all want, assurances, we wanted assurances. I mean, I'm happy with the 235 or 240, whatever you're gonna say, but we wanna pin that down and nail that number down.
Sure, I think it was 235 in the application.
It's a 2%, basically.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking for.
Yeah.
If we're able to recoup some, we're likely, like, we are pretty much done.
And
There's nowhere to fit any more lots.
And you can look at this and tell that this is a one-dimensional, type. But there's going to be a variation there, especially on that property of all untold kind of houses built cantilevered and side by side, and other houses are going to be far apart. So there may be an extra lot you can slide in there, but there's probably going to be a couple of times where you're saying, well, we're going to have to combine two lots, or we're not going to have a footprint. So I understand that you need a little space there, but I think what I'm asking is can you give us a hard number? Say, okay, we will not build more than 235 houses.
235, I believe that's what. We have that, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions,
Thanks.
Mr. Thomas?
Well, I guess it goes back to the lot size and 0.15 to 0.16. I mean, that doesn't get you a whole lot more, but you mentioned earlier that the septic install would be separate from the LOD. So are there any other items you feel you have liberty to take outside of that disturbance?
I mean, anything that's allowable by code, but the only things that we would need are the septic system, other than, you know, what's defined in that area, so, no. Anything else?
And you will be capping the wells? Did I already ask that?
Yes.
Well, not the one
For the house.
for the house.
But when the house is gone, it will be capped.
I think they're keeping it.
That, the house isn't part of the residential piece
Oh.
anymore, yeah,
The house is kind of,
hard.
you know,
Okay,
it comes
so
down
number
like this.
Okay.
Yeah, that's,
What are they gonna do with that? Make it a show, I mean, make it the welcome center or
they're
something?
keeping it. Somebody, I think
Oh,
they're doing
okay.
renovation.
It's like Centennial,
To my knowledge,
the Centennial Ridge,
One of
the
the-
original owner still lives there.
Oh, okay.
it's one of the
Okay.
current ownership. I believe he has a piece. So anyways, they work on.
Right, any other questions? Okay, so we'll discuss internally, thank you so
Great,
much.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Whereas I have a list of things, that we discussed. One of the things that we did not discuss, but it's not really a question, is about this center line reduction on the road. The staff report does have a note stating that, you know, there's no engineering done on this to actually know if it's feasible or safe or anything like that. Personally, that is something I would like to see for that particular section of it. Before it going, oh, I know councils don't want to see it, but I would like to see it as well.
Yeah.
I know they're gonna want to see it. So that's one point. The other issues that we brought up that we wanted to talk about was the water storage being buried. That they were going to remove the language about being able to remove trees from the riparian buffer. All the language in the application about the existing wells needed to be removed.
Capped.
2 of them would be capped, except for the one for the existing house. They're gonna remove the, basically, we're gonna be saying that no driveways can be put in over, so like, anything over 25%, they can't do, and if they can't, their driveway is gonna be over 25%, they have to come back to us.
Yep.
The tree survey was gonna be the entire grading area, but I think we should put a plus certain amount of feet surrounding that grading area. So now we have to discuss what feet make sense. What amount of feet
I would say
outside
20 feet.
20 feet outside? That makes
Yeah.
sense.
20 feet.
20 feet outside of the grading area. And then the engineering of the center line, and then also planting the 2 4-inch trees from our replacement list per lot.
Right.
Was there anything else that you guys saw that needed some slight adjustment or cleaning up that we did not talk about yet, or anything you guys wanted to see included?
Well, all right, so we talked about city parks, 7 acres gonna be dedicated to the city. If they're not gonna have a gated community, then that's not an issue. I was gonna say, I don't think the city wants it, it's a gated area, so that's taken out of it.
So really quick, Danny, do we need to specify that it's not a gated community even though it's private roads?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That was one of the concerns. We addressed a lot of the water concerns already. So the $200,000 cap stays in place for,
I would say it does, and plus the 2 trees.
okay, plus the 2 trees, okay. All right, we'll accept the
One
200.
thing we talked earlier is they may not be paying anything based on.
No, he is going to. He said he agreed to pay up to $200,000. So in the grading area, how is it currently written, which I guess that needs to be
Yeah, I was
cleaned
gonna
up.
say, I don't think.
How it's currently
So,
written, it's kind of, it can be
right
interpreted
now-
as not paying.
So again, correct me if I'm wrong. What they're saying here
is that, any trees protected, they're gonna do a tree survey in the grading area. And, of the trees that they remove, up to 25% of those caliper inches can be, reimbursed or done as fee in lieu, up to 200,000. Or 50% if they meet the requirement. Anything beyond that is not gonna be, fee in lieu, and it's not gonna be remediated. That the 2 trees that they do will be in exchange for anything beyond. Did I say anything incorrectly? That's it.
That's okay now.
Now, are we okay with that?
I'm okay with that if we exclude the,
So he needs a reassurance from the bank. I mean, if you wanted to increase it, we could. We could say 500,000.
I know they. city
well, now we've
council's
excluded historical and what's the,
Majestic.
and historical trees in the past.
Yeah, you could exclude majestics.
Out of that.
Let's say this, what is a dollar amount that you'd be comfortable with? Because he doesn't think he's gonna reach 200,000. So we could say 500,000, because if he's not gonna reach 200,000, then he's not gonna reach 200,000.
Here he comes.
Love that.
That's what I'm saying, right? He needs the reassurance.
Yeah, well, the assurance comes in 2 ways. We need to make sure that the numbers work for the bank as well. That it shows some level of profitability. So we're already losing lots. And honestly, we're getting super late. Please help us make sure that in the 500, that's what they will put in. That basically fixed cost. So please work with us on this. Okay, like we put 200. We believe it's a reasonable cap, considering that we are giving up so much density to start with. We're being held to an R2 standard, which we're totally okay with, when 2/3 of the property is an R3. Please remember that. I'm just going to leave it at that. Would appreciate your consideration on keeping us within a fair zone in terms of mitigation fees. Very much appreciate that.
I don't know, Jeff, are you happy with 200? You want to go 300?
I mean, I don't have
a number. You don't have a number?
No.
Okay.
Because I think 200,000 was just pulled out of thin air anyway, so I really don't have it. It's arbitrary. I could say 2 million.
Right.
It's arbitrary.
Yeah.
So, why?
When we look at that restaurant, that we had a lower amount, and then when it went to city council, they raised it.
Fine to me.
Yes.
For the amount, like.
They wrote a $75,000 check, just for that little lot up there on the hill.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's right, you're pulling a number out of thin air there, because that was a $75,000 check that guy wrote without money tonight. He was glad to do it.
So 500.
I would recommend,
Yes, sir.
to be, the best thing to do is either accept the recommendation or not accept it and say no limit. Because picking numbers out of thin air is not great for
Right.
defending it in court later.
Okay.
Okay, so with Twine, they, on that lot that they had.
They asked for variance, and presented a case to council on why they felt that they had some other mitigation measures that don't necessarily counted in the ordinance, and they made a case to council why a lower dollar amount based on their specific plan was justified, and council accepted that. Well, I think P&Z recommended approval as well. But that was based on a site-specific case that they made.
All right.
But just their lot incurred up to $75,000 worth of.
That's true, but their lot was heavily wooded with protected oak trees.
Okay.
I have no idea what the build sites here actually look like. I know driving down, you can see some wide zones of grassland in there a little bit, but I don't know what cedar, I don't know what the 6-inch oak tree. I have no idea. It could be that they don't hit the 200,000 number even without this, in which case the cap is meaningless. But it could go the other way. Because again, we haven't had what we consider a tree survey done. It could find something totally different up there.
You know what? Let's erase the $200,000, just have the tree survey, if it comes back, they can come back and ask for it. Yeah.
Okay. So Danny,
Yes.
there's a couple things that we're wanting to see before it goes to council.
The only way to do that is to table it and act on it at a different meeting. I cannot bring something back to P and Z after you voted on it.
Okay.
That's just not, that's not doable. Our process is P and Z, then council.
May I ask what are the things that you still would like more clarifications on, just so we understand?
So this is one of them. So the tree survey that we would like you to do, which is gonna be which you basically already have, right? We pretty much discussed that, but it's getting it more into a document that we can actually look and see what can be taken out to then determine is the $200,000 cap enough or not? Because we want to give you that reassurance, but we also want the reassurance too. So I think the tree survey at this point in time would make sense for that. And so of the grading area plus the 20 feet that we're talking about for the tree survey.
Would you allow tree inventory at this point in
But we
time?
would need to
By-
know if
by
it's
a- By a.
Well, and let me just kind of intervene here. Even if we had a fully compliant tree survey, we have no idea where the house is going to be located on the lots or what the 0.16 zone is. So,
I think they're showing it. They do know where it's gonna
I mean, those are estimates.
But I think
that's-
based on those estimates, we can know if the $200,000 is
Well,
enough
even
or
at
not.
this level, we won't be able to tell you what trees are impacted by those red boxes. Because anything close to, but this thing could be off by 10 or 15 feet in any direction. Even if those boxes were hard numbers, hard locations.
But if it came back, it came back where it says like if the 11 something percent that you're disturbing, right, with this grading area. Even if it's off by 10 feet here or there, if 11% is for disturbing on the grading area, means that he's gonna have to mitigate $1 million for trees, then we know, hey, that $200,000 cap is nowhere near enough. And yes, that might fluctuate here and there, but at least we can get a number that we're a little more comfortable with, even if this is like off.
Well, you have the right to recommend that,
We just
but
don't
only
know at this
council
point in time.
can impose it.
Mhm.
So you can't say, table this until you bring us a tree survey.
Okay.
You could recommend that council not act on it until council receives a tree survey, but
Okay.
P and Z doesn't have that authority.
Okay, that's the way to do that.
I would recommend that you have that for council. Is there-
We have a arborist certified tree inventory.
And
That's
again,
usually-
that's a distinction, that's not the same thing that we require. I have no idea what council's gonna want, or whether this is something they're gonna insist upon before they move forward. But,
I have faith in them. They're all wise and all knowing.
I agree.
And then the other thing was an engineering analysis on the center line reduction. To actually have something from engineering stamp saying that it's okay.
That actually is consistent with the city of San Antonio code, so it's not pulled out of the air, but we could buy a tractor that fire truck. That's
Yeah, that was really that was one of my main concerns there, is I've been the one beating the horse on that. And Ashley's kind enough to take the bull by the horns and ask for it.
And I have heard, I don't know entirely how true this is, but I have heard that we do have a new fire truck that's larger. I have that. I think we do have a larger fire truck. So if you could, before you do that analysis, please call our emergency services to make sure you have the sizes of our trucks. Yeah. To value that.
Yeah, what we will do, we'll do better than this. We'll actually have a conceptual fire plan for the whole property. That's something we typically do anyways. That's standard, and even when people don't ask for it, because it's important for us to make sure that everybody's comfortable with, and for us, honestly, to make sure that even though you cannot build without being compliant with the international fire code requirements, right? So that kind of goes without saying. But just to give some level of assurance, absolutely, yeah, we'll do a fire plan.
Danny, at what point would the city make a ruling on that?
On what?
On the the center line being safe or not safe?
If you approve it in this PDD, it'll be pre-done. But typically, we would make a determination on that during the plating process. They'd have to do a variance and it would be handled as a variance.
So if the cities, who would make that determination within the city would be?
It'd be our third-party engineer. Okay. Friesen Nichols.
So if they say it's a no-go, then.
Now, if you approve it, it doesn't matter what they say. Frankly.
Well, I mean, you guys are making a recommendation. You can say, we're happy to get the fire plan submitted to your engineer and your fire marshal and see what they come back with in terms of comments.
So if we word it as to, upon approval by the city engineer, we would recommend that.
I mean, again, council's the only one that can make that a requirement. P&Z could recommend, I'm just picking out of thin air, recommend approval provided that council consider requiring a tree survey, council consider requiring an engineering analysis of the road radius request, and those things, and make recommendations that they require it, that they're the only ones that can actually do that.
Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, I completely understand why, but then from our position here, it makes it hard then to recommend something to council if we're also not seeing the data behind our recommendation.
If you don't feel the information sufficient to make an approval recommendation. We're limited by what the applicant brings forward, and only council can require those additional studies. So that's it. P&Z's basically got to make a call on what you've got in front of you. And you can highlight deficiencies, you can make a recommendation for approval, conditional approval, or denial based on what your council make the final decision.
So it's important that I mentioned we are not asking for any variances on the fire code. We're not asking for any variances.
No, I understand.
Yeah, so in terms of if there's any concern on the safety issue, when we typically, we're happy to provide a fire plan just to show that the calculations are there, the radiuses are all calculated. We typically also put fire hydrants, locations, just conceptually, right? So the fire marshal would look at it and say, yeah, you know what, this makes sense. However, when none of this would get approved upon construction planning or platting unless it's 100% compliant with the International Fire Code. So in terms of the process, at this point in time, it's all conceptual. Typically, you just say, you know what, we're going to comply. And ultimately, your engineer will be the one.
And I recommend that we include that in the recommendation that the radius, whatever, has to be fully compliant with the fire code.
Yeah. And if you're not asking for a variance, it has to be. Would you say?
We want to write it. It's straightforward, and we want to include as much as possible because we want to make city council's job as easy as possible. And present everything in front of them, but sometimes we don't have all the information.
What you're asking for is very reasonable. There's nothing here that's outlandish. For us to provide a fire plan, standard, we're happy to do it. For us to give you an idea, even the only thing we would ask for consideration on is the wording on your recommendation for the trees. We would very much appreciate this point in time because we already spent the money on the inventory that is certified by a arborist, and they're the ones who caught all the GPS locations of every single tree with its size. That maybe it allow us to use the inventory at least for council purposes, and then if we do a full-on survey upon platting, obviously, and we would be held to the same standards that we're basically holding us to, right? As part of the tree.
As long as that you have some way of showing whether this mechanism actually meets our code or not. Because I think when we actually say full tree survey, right, you have to match everything that we're requiring. But this one that we're talking about is only to determine if your cap is a good number or not.
Yes,
but with that, I think we need to see on a map the trees, which might get closer to what you currently have to what code is going to require.
Well, they require full-on tree survey and we're fine with that. We did not.
Yeah,
that's-
well, you still have to do
Well,
it.
you should go ahead and provide, I would recommend you go ahead and provide it to the council stage so that they can make a judgment on how they feel about it.
Like an actual survey, we have the
Without
inventory.
the actual inventory you have.
Yeah, we have that, yeah, absolutely.
You should include that in your submittal to council so that they can judge for themselves whether they think it's adequate.
We're good. Yeah, we'll do that.
I just recommend.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So, yeah, we've got IFC compliant.
So inventory for the trees.
But I think also showing like which ones are gonna be impacted by
Yes.
this grading area.
Yes, absolutely. We'll show them by color code, and we'll have a proper legend, and we'll show which ones will be subject to, being removed, based on our grading. That's easy for us to do.
So,
We should-
Mr.
we should-
Bat, if
Yes, ma'am.
they go with the Texas Water Supply Company, like Texas Water Company has it where they have the current, we're in stage 3 drought right now. You can't water
Right.
between,
That's based on their water supplies. I have no idea what the wholesaler water supplies are, what drought stage their retail outlet would have.
okay.
If it, let's just say it was, I really don't want to speculate on what it could be.
Mhm.
Some other entity succeeds in superseding the CCN of Texas Water Company. What stage of drought they would be in, totally dependent on their water supplies. And that's gonna be those wells wherever they're coming from.
Yeah. So how,
We're getting there.
okay, so. Does anyone have a motion? I'm trying to think like the best way of moving forward right now is.
Okay, so we're gonna make a motion to recommend PDD with these restrictions.
So I think it's the approval with conditions of like all these things that have to be either cleaned up, added, or removed. A lot of different things.
Yeah.
So that's one option that we can go.
Yeah.
The other option is tabling.
Right.
State all of these things, have them clean it up, and then come back. And it's clean. Or also recommending denial is the other option. And then the council can say.
I don't think we can go to city council with 25 conditional items.
Well, they would have to make those improvements before council sees it.
No,
correct?
No, that would just be your recommendation. They could choose not to, and then council would decide what the consequences of that would be.
Those three,
Okay.
here to council, we do conditional approval, but.
But they don't have to put those conditions in.
No, because it's just recommendation. The commission's decision is not binding, denial, conditional approval, either way.
Okay, but if we make these recommendations, these
But it's also things
conditions,
that they've agreed to
right, these
this
conditions,
evening.
and they've said here, and we've discussed this, and they know we're gonna do it, what we're gonna recommend, and they hear this, they go to the city council, and they don't make these changes or that we're recommending, and that's on them. There's 3 city council members here now, and the others will know what's going on, then they can hash it out.
Okay. I'll make a motion.
Well, we're gonna do local water.
They don't
That's gonna
have
be
to.
an issue. Oh, we're gonna separate.
No, you're gonna recommend approval with the condition that the water, storage tank be buried, aren't you?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But not SUV.
All right.
Okay. Alright, I make a motion that we table, make a motion that we table item 2.5, to hold a public hearing and consider a request by Tremor Developments LP and One Stop Group LP on behalf of Dash Interest LLC and Ecker Ally for the establishment of a planned development district, PDD, for the single-family, multifamily, and commercial uses on approximately 387 acres at 31575 Highway 281 North, Bulverde, Texas 78163, because we would like the following to be amended in the application.
For any language regarding the water storage, that it be added that it's a buried water storage tank. To remove the language that protected trees can be removed from the riparian buffer. That all language in the application regarding existing wells be removed. We'd also request that 2 of the wells be capped. You can keep the 1 that's for the residential property. State that there's no disturbance over 25% slope, including driveways. That a tree survey is to be done, but it's on the grading area plus 20 feet surrounding. We would like to see at the next session engineering on the center line of the roads and showing the fire plan for the fire truck on that road. They can show the radius. We'd also like it to be added within the tree mitigation that you're going to be planting 2 4-inch trees from the replacement list provided by the city per lot. And that you, let's see, I have another one here. And that we would like to see the tree inventory that you currently have superposed on this to show us how many trees are going to be removed to determine the cap on mitigation.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right. Motion passed for tabling. Thank you.
Jesus
So there's no public comments related to, not related to agenda items, and we are officially adjourned at 9:08. Thank you, everyone.
This was my notes on what I was looking at.
It did turn out
Well, your first one.
I didn't use it.
I usually have one.
Trust me, I've been insulted with that.
No, just say.
Certainly not the latest. Actually, that's the word that I've been insulted. I would